Good afternoon.
That was a look.
Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Welcome to the Volusia County School Board meeting. The time now is 4:32 p.m. And we're going to, in just a moment, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. The Pledge of Allegiance this evening will be by Reed Patillo Elementary. The National Anthem will be from students at Spruce Creek High. Following that, we'll remain standing for a moment of silence and reflection. So at this time, would you please join me? And we will wait until the students are on the video.
Good evening, School Board. My name is Kelly Carter, proud principal of Reed Patillo Rockets. With you today, I have Miss Castillo's second grade class, and we are going to present the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I'd like to introduce those that are here at the front with me. I'll start over on my far left. We have Mrs. Donna Brosmer representing District 4, Mrs. Krista Goodrich representing District 2, Dr. Gilbert Evans, our school board attorney. Moving over to the far right, my far right, we have Miss Celeste Gilmore, our agency clerk, Mrs. Jessie Thompson representing District 3, Mr. Ruben Colon, our vice chair representing District 5, Dr. Carmen Balgobin, our superintendent, and I am Jamie Haynes, the chair representing District 1. Items for approval on this agenda are items 1.03, 2.02, 5.01, 7.02, and 17.01 through 17.06. Public participation times. For any item on the consent agenda, you may go over and see one of the ladies here, raise your hand, and they'll give you a card if you wish to provide public input on anything on the consent agenda prior to us voting on the consent agenda. We also have a 6 p.m. or slightly later, depending on how the meeting is moving, for items of general interest pertaining to public education in Volusia County. A total of up to 15 minutes will be provided for public comment at that time. Then time will be provided for public comment on any action item before a board vote is called on that item. Our action items tonight are items 17.01 through 17.06. And then time will be provided at the end of the meeting for public comment for items of general interest pertaining to public education in Volusia County before any items from the board, superintendent, or attorney are up for discussion or announcement. Our district vision statement is to create lifelong learners prepared for an ever-changing global society. At this time, I invite my fellow board members to go ahead, and if they wish to speak tonight about anything that's been going on, they can speak. Mrs. Brosmer.
This was a busy week, and I had a great time. I started by going to the Ormond Beach Middle School fifth grade welcome, which is their way of welcoming the fifth graders who are going to be coming in next year as sixth graders. Huge turnout, and the performances were wonderful. And I got to meet Dr. Iannarelli, the principal. I had not had a chance to meet her, and then I spent part of the next day with her and got a tour of the campus and what have you. So I had a really great time at OBMS. I also attended the VCC PTA, and that was also really wonderful. That was at Tomoka Elementary, and that was really wonderful performances, and had a chance to speak with their staff as well. And then the biggest thing was the countywide social studies fair that was held at Hinson Middle School. I had been a judge at, I misstated the last time and now I'm going to do it again, at one of my elementary schools. I'm drawing a blank.
Pathways, Pine Trail?
I'm sorry?
Pathways?
Pathways,
Pine Trail?
thank you. I always say Pine Trail when I mean Pathways. I was a judge at Pathways and saw the winning entry from Pathways at Hinson, but also was able to see what the other elementary schools and the middle and high schools were able to do, and the level of imagination, ingenuity, and intellectual curiosity of so many of them was just fascinating. So I had a really good time and just thought I would mention it. That's all.
So I don't have a lot this week, except that we are looking for shoes. If anyone wants to donate any used tennis shoes, we'll be doing a collection at Turi Tea. So feel free to let me know if you want to donate shoes. But other than that, just want to thank Karen Bishop for continuing to schedule me to visit all the schools and meet our amazing principals and staff and students and get to see all the great things everyone's doing.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. So you're right. There is a lot going on. I feel like it's getting up to that time of year and it doesn't slow down until summer. A couple really big things happened, especially in District 3. Port Orange Elementary School had their centennial celebration, which is huge. I mean, 100 years, and you're talking just wall-to-wall people of all ages. You had your young students who were still there, and it was really cool. They had their oldest surviving alumni with their youngest student from their VPK class, and they took a picture together, and it was precious. But just hearing all the different steps and stages that the school went through, it was there before the railroad. I don't know if anyone's ever driven past that school and wondered why there is a railroad track right on top of it. The school grounds were there before the railroad, so that answered that question for me. But thank you, huge thank you to everyone who put that together, because there were a lot of pictures, there were newspaper articles. I got to show my son a newspaper. There was just a lot of history there to be had, and it was really, really neat. And I heard so many people that were older say, oh, this was my third grade classroom, or oh, I remember these hallways, or oh, I remember this auditorium. It was just a really cool night. New Smyrna Beach, our girls basketball team is in the state Final Four, which is amazing. They have a fantastic team. They have a great coach, so super excited for them. If anyone from District 3 has felt called to give money to the basketball team, they will need help going to the Final Four in Lakeland. So just putting that little plug out there. I think most of us went to the Love the Bus. We had our different bus terminals had the Love the Bus, and so we went out there with Futures Foundation. Thank you, Futures Foundation, for providing a beautiful breakfast for our bus drivers and the staff out there, because they do so much, and no one ever hears about it really, what they go through. And they're the first people that our kids see every morning, usually the last ones at the end of the day. So it's really nice to go out there and honor them. And I'm sorry I'm going a little long. This will be the end of it. We all know we had the races that came through, and I don't want to steal too much of Mr. Cologne's thunder because I know you love the races so much, but I will say at Chisholm Elementary, we got a book vending machine thanks to Eric Jones and Advent Health. And if you've never seen the book vending machines, they are amazing. And some of the kids got the little tokens and they could go up and they were so excited to get a book out of this vending machine. And I just love that that's a reward and they're just that happy and excited. So a lot going on. Thank you to everyone who made that all possible.
Thank you. Mr. Cologne?
So a few meetings ago, we had Acapocalypse here, which is the vocal, I said that right, which is the vocal ensemble from Pine Ridge. And so they went to the state competition and they qualified to go to the national competition. And so they will be going to North Carolina in the coming days to compete as well. We had Jack Lopez Day. Jack Lopez was a former student at Deltona High School, and so they retired his jersey, which was really neat. He was out there with his family and his kids, and so, of course, a lot of the community came out to support, and so that was great. We retired his jersey. Our cheer teams, both Deltona High and Pine Ridge, made it to the finals, and so shout out to them. Kudos to everyone who came together for the Fact Fair. That took place at Deltona Middle School. Shout out to our federal programs and grants and those folks who bring together folks from the community to have those offerings. Band. So jazz band, both at Pine Ridge and Deltona High, got straight superiors, yay. And so that was super exciting. I think Mr. Doster's over here somewhere. Okay, there he is, he's smiling. So that was amazing. I'm almost done. Let's see. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Pine Ridge. That is always so hard to judge because these kids are amazing, you know, and it takes a lot to put yourself out there. And so these kids did an amazing job, and so that was super exciting. Last but not least, Deltona High put together the Addams Family, the play. And to say that it was short of Broadway, I mean, it was the props, the kids, the lines, they were hilarious. It was such a good show. Shout out to Miss T, who, and what was really, really cool is they hooked up with the kids from Timbercrest Elementary. And so you had like the adult cast and then you had the kids. So there were 2 Wednesdays, one the young one the slightly older one, and it was just hilarious. And so the arts are alive and well in Volusia schools. I tell you, if you know, I'm looking forward to proposing ways that we could get our chambers and those folks to show up to these events because they have no idea what they're missing. And so that's that. Otherwise, I'll leave you've mentioned the races. Shout out to Advent Health and Eric Jones Foundation, who actually has donated 3 machines, I believe, at this point to our schools. And not only does it come with the machine, but it also comes along with a $5,000 purchase of books to continue to fill that machine. So special thanks to them for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a lot of things to share, but there's one thing I want to share this evening that I have never in all the years I've went and judged science fair experienced this. And I thought, I just need to tell everyone because it was the neatest experience. So I was at Woodward Elementary on Friday morning for about 4 hours to judge science fair projects, which are really fun. But the best part of it was they brought students from DeLand High. So they had students from the IB program, the ACE and Honors program, dual enrollment students. Some of them were athletes and all of that. And one young lady told me, she said, this is my 3rd year doing this because I love it. Well, who better to interview the 5th graders than students that attend the high school where these kids are going to go to high school? The interaction between the students the fifth graders and the high school students was just amazing, because they would sit down with them and ask them questions, and the kids felt more comfortable talking about their projects, I will tell you, with them than they would with an adult. And they could relate, and then they would ask them things about, well, if you were going to expand this next year when you go to sixth grade, what would you change or what would you do differently? And so every student, and we did 4 rotations, was interviewed by at least 3 high school students, and they got that interaction. And the high school students, each time when they talked to a group, they got to tell something about, here's what I'm doing, or here's what I learned in middle school that prepared me for high school, or here's where I'm headed to college. And it was a beautiful thing. Matter of fact, we had one high school student that had said in an earlier session that she's in dance. She talked about like some of her electives, and we ended up in the last session of the students that were being interviewed. One had done a project on dance tights and which pair of dance tights will actually hold up the best. And so it was so neat because we were able to pair that young lady who is a dancer at the high school with this young lady who started in dance but is trying to figure out how her mom doesn't have to keep spending money on her dance tights. And you should have seen the little girl's face. She just lit up when the young lady said, I'm in dance now, so I am so interested in your project. I told one of them the most interesting part that I had, and it had just happened to me that day, is one of them did a thing on bananas and like how to keep the bananas from turning brown quickly. And I talked with them about, well, when they do, I end up having to make banana bread at my house because I don't want to throw them out. And so it's so neat to see the conversations that can take place. And if I could encourage any of you that are here tonight or listening, if you're in elementary school, here's a great suggestion. Pair up with one of your local high schools, like where your kids are going to go to school next, and see if you can get some high school kids to come out and judge your science fair projects next year, because that was the best thing. And Miss Larrabee arranged all of it at Woodward. She had something there for them first thing in the morning for breakfast, and then she served them pizza and salad and cookies at lunch. And it was the best experience. And I still did interview some kids, but just seeing their smile, like one little boy, he had done a project with the bounce of like balls. Well, one of the young men played soccer, and he sat down and talked to him. And I've just never seen kids come alive as fifth graders wanting to tell you about their projects, is what I witnessed on Friday. And so that's all I'm going to leave it at, but Mr. Cologne wants to talk again.
One last thing, a lot of our schools participated this weekend in the Science Olympiad at Embry-Riddle. That's put on by an independent group of folks who do that. However, I know Deltona High, Pine Ridge, Galaxy, Deltona Middle had teams there in many of our schools. And so shout out, I know Jen Taylor and her team were out there with the STEM bus. And so shout out to them and all those students who are qualifying and going to the national competition now. So it was I think they're going to states. This was the regional competition. And so shout out to them. Thank you.
Okay, and so since you gave a shout out, I needed to end with, not only did we have all the students, we had one of the teachers at DeLand High agreed to take on this project, and her name is Mrs. Rizzo. So she's the one that coordinated it and got the high school students over to the elementary. And then we also had Dr. Harry Price from Stetson University there. And he was even interviewing kids and telling them about all the different fields, if they're interested in science, that they could follow through. And so that's the best thing you can do. Bring your community members in, but high school students coming to elementary schools, there's nothing better than that. So at this time, we're moving on to item 1.03, approval of minutes. Board members, you had an opportunity to read the minutes from the last workshop on February 11th and the school board meeting on February 11th. This time, do I have someone that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cologne. Thank you, Mrs. Brosmeyer. Any questions? All right, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes for the February 11th workshop and the February 11th school board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. We're now moving on to 2.01. Dr. Balgobin, are there any agenda changes before the agenda is presented to the board for approval?
No, Madam Chair, I have no changes.
All right. Board members, you've heard that there are no changes to the agenda as it was presented to you. So do I have a motion to approve the presented agenda?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda for this evening's meeting as it's been presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. We are now moving right along to item 3.01, announcements by Dr. Carmen Balgobin, our superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members, and for all of you in the audience. It's so nice to see so many staff members, parents, and students, and lots of pride in the audience. I see that. Look at that over there, Mr. Cologne. You should take a picture. And for those of you tuning in, thank you for tuning in and listening to our board meeting. Couple things, very short today. We do have February 27th. It's considered a Digital Learning Day. On March 25th, there are several things taking place in March. Women's History Month, the entire month of March. So, to all of the females that are trendsetters and trailblazers, congratulations to all of you. The world it just spins a whole lot more, right? But when you've got females,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
they just have it, right, ladies?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's Women's History
Yes, ma'am.
Month. Also, Music in Our Schools Month is the month of March, Social Worker Month of March, and Youth Art Month is the month of March. March 2nd through the 6th, we have Read Across America Week. The 2nd through the 8th, School Social Worker Week, and the 3rd through the 7th, it's National School Breakfast Week. And as we all know, in Volusia County, we have the Universal Breakfast and Lunch Program, so we're very lucky to have that program. The theme this year, however, is Clue into Your School's Breakfast. So you know we will have a great video coming up for that. SALT, our Student Advisory Leadership Team. We have 33 students from our high schools that are part of our SALT, Student Advisory Leadership Team. This is something that we put together last, I think, 2 years now. And these are students that we meet with very often throughout the year, and we discuss different topics. And it's really important to have students' voice in the work that we do. But all of you will have an opportunity to meet these 33 splendid students. They will be here next month, and they will share some of the work that they've done so far in Volusia County and what they're looking forward to as we move forward. But as we all know, they have been doing really good work, and actually we've worked on some really good projects, and they're just truly outstanding students. So I can't wait for you, all of you, to meet them. So tune in for next month, the board meeting coming up, because they will be here and we will be recognizing them. Chisholm Elementary, you're absolutely right, and I do have a video that captures that, so I'm not going to say a whole lot about that, but you're absolutely right, and we're very thankful to Advent Health, because it's the 4th book vending machine that we have in our county so far, and I know it's not the last. Also, Love the Bus, and I know that all of you board members, you were out there at the hubs and you were welcoming our bus drivers and celebrating with them, and I have a video for that as well. So we have 2 videos that are queued up and ready to go, and I think it really captures what I can say. It's already in there. Correct, guys? All right.
How fast can you go in a NASCAR?
We're right about 200 miles an hour. Yeah, we got the chance to come out here with the Eric Jones Foundation and Advent Health, donate a book vending machine that's right behind us. It's something we've been doing for a couple of years now with the foundation, and Advent Health has really come on and wanted to be a part of it. But just trying to spread reading to the next generation, and it's something I've always loved to do, and it's been really fun to just have a way to share my passion of it with some great groups of kids. We're still a small organization. We only have really one full-time employee, but to see it just spreading through the country and the market. We have a great platform on NASCAR. We travel to so many different places and have so many different partners that are able to help us out with all these different initiatives that we have, and with one of them being these book vending machines. It's been a lot of fun, and again, thankful to Advent Health for coming on and really helping make this reality.
It makes it more fun because it's like you're kind of getting a book vending machine, and it kind of sticks out more and it's colorful, and I feel like it'll encourage people to read more.
It encourages kids because it's a fun way to get the books, and the books inside, it's just like a real life thing, how you go to a normal vending machine, but they get to practice with books and they get to take it home.
Yeah, it's really trying to get kids more excited about reading. These are vending machines where kids have an opportunity to earn a token through their classwork, through good behavior, through good grades, and get these tokens to come over and get a book out of this vending machine and be able to take it home and keep it. So really exciting and kind of a cool way to go about getting into reading and have something rewarding to really be doing what you're supposed to be doing in class, and then also get a cool book to take home with you.
Love the bus week. We love buses. We love our mechanics. We love everybody. We have amazing people. It's the people that makes the difference.
We are celebrating the bus drivers and transportation staff of Volusia County Schools. We celebrate our bus drivers because they do an amazing job of making sure our students get safely to and from school every day.
They take care of our precious cargo every day to get them to school on time and then take them home.
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate you. Thank you. We have approximately 300 bus drivers and bus attendants that serves in Volusia County. And these are the folks that, for many, many of our children, these are the first faces that they see in the morning, the first contact that they make, and then the last also. So it's really important that they understand how important they are to the work that we do, and they're truly valued and appreciated, and they're an integral part of VCS.
And last but not least, the spring is it's right around the corner, and we are going to launch our Superintendent Spring Reading Challenge. So I'd like to invite parents, for those of you listening at home, those of you here in the audience, and to all of our students. It starts March 1st, and it will run through March 31st. Students can log their reading minutes through Beanstack and earn exciting rewards, including a $20 fun card, and for 400 to 599 minutes, make sure Charlie knows that.
Got it.
And a water park pass for 600 minutes or more. So get ready, guys, because that's coming up, and all you need to do is read, and log your minutes in through Beanstack. And we will be recognizing those students after, the winners. That's it.
That's it. All right, then we are moving on to item 4.01, which I think when we hit recognitions, this is why we have a lot of people in the audience, and we love having especially students, teachers, staff, parents, community members here. So our first recognition tonight is the Superintendent's Winter Reading Challenge winners. Dr. Balgobin.
Yes.
Since you're going to introduce all these students.
Yes, we do have well, actually, Ms. Rabinski, our coordinator for instructional materials, is going to assist us, along with Heather Norris, our coordinator for ELA K through 12. But question for you, Ms. Haynes. How many schools do you think participated?
I'd like to say I wish all of them had participated, but how about we'll go with 60% of them?
Well, we far exceeded that.
Yay.
67 of our schools participated in our winter challenge. Guys, you have the names of all the students? Okay. Go for it.
All right, so some other information is we had 346 students read and log between 400 and 499 minutes. They earned an arcade card from Family Funtown. We had 767 students read and log over 600 or more minutes, and they earned a 90-minute jump session from Sky Zone. And we'd like to thank those sponsors. We actually have here Lauren Constant from Sky Zone, if you want to stand up, here to represent, and we're so grateful that she donated those passes for our students.
I think we need to give her a hand.
Yes. So tonight we are recognizing our top 3 winners from each division. So in elementary, if you could please stand when your name is called, we have Gordon Nichols here from Pine Trail with Mr. Bynum. He is here, the principal. We have from Champion Elementary, Nikita Mancala with Mr. Mallory, Miss Fuller here. I think she might be a little shy. She's in the very back. From Port Orange, we have Juliana Turner, and Mr. Zablo is here tonight as well. And our middle school division from Southwestern, we have Dr. Swith here with Ronald Lundy, our winner. Our next 2 winners are not able to attend tonight, but we will still want to say their names. So we have Avery Peterson from Creekside. Lily Kuwait from New Smyrna Middle. In our high school division, we have Kristen Desmond from Pine Ridge. And Dr. Sparger is here. He has 2 winners from Spruce Creek. I don't think either one is able to be here tonight, but we have Sapreet Carr and Ava Werner. And
You want to do the next, or you want to have them come up now?
Let me do that. Let's do this
Have
one.
them come up. Okay.
So at this time, but I think we're going to take them first elementary. If we could have our 3 elementary winners, and anyone that's here with them, go ahead and come forward. We're going to get the elementary picture, and then we will do middle school next and high school last.
And I think it's in order.
Come on, guys, now. Right against the wall, okay? Come on over, guys. He is a rock star. Mom and Dad, if any of you guys would like to take a picture before you let me know when I get a drop it to you.
Okay.
Say mine. Let's try the bottom. Gets you better off. And Avery, yes, we love her. Gordon Yeah, they love it. All right, everybody, we have to get really close, okay? So get as close as you can.
Did you find the 3?
Nikita. That's all I Is that all at elementary school? Yes, there's 3. Okay, can you guys get on this side for me? Yeah. Shorter even standing. All right, everybody. Yeah, exactly. So we can have everybody just take one big collective step as a group this way. Yes. Gentle. Don't knock anybody over. All right, there we go. There we go.
Do we have the students forward with group families? And
Mr. Zotlo.
all our men and women behind.
All right, everybody, we're gonna take a whole bunch of pictures, one right after the other, okay? I'm gonna count down for you, just keep smiling, keep your teeth, ready? All right. Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1. Everybody do a couple, okay? Keep smiling, keep going, you can do it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, and then one last one, ready? Just like face.
He's picking the phone.
Hello.
Exactly.
Be a little bit of a back jam. Thanks, guys. Yes, ma'am. You got it. Oh my goodness. Dr. Stark. I know. Thank you. Congratulations. Such a good job. Okay. Same thing, guys. So a bunch of pictures back to back. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And then one more. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
My mom makes me. I'd rather not buy forced. No, well, I am doing it in New York.
Thank you. Here's Kristen right there. Kristen. And the rest are not.
I know. I do too.
He's here.
And they're both his?
They're both
Let
his.
him hold them up.
All right, sounds great.
Wait, how's that? 'Cause
And then the
that's-
other, so that one
Oh, it's not this
is,
one.
not that
Who is
one. It's Ava.
It's that one.
That one. And. Let's put some.
Alright, guys, we're gonna have each student come and jump in this way for me. Reach on Jamie, can I put you on this side? Just kind of even it out. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you're quite tall.
Dr. Sparker's gonna say go Panthers.
Men in the back.
So that we know when to smile.
All right, everybody, you guys know how this works. Ready? Bunch of pictures all at once. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. And then one more.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I can send those. Are you able to possibly get those? I think I have it.
It's all good. Thanks for being here. You're welcome. You are the correct. I've gotten
I'm back to cold. Back to cold.
Thank you, Dad, for coming. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
That's right. She has a great job.
With some of the,
Krista,
because if Deltona Lakes is all coming up,
I have them in there.
Oh, yeah?
The PBIS, it's
Plus cabinet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Up high.
We're gonna be doing it very similar to that. They're gonna come up and Mandy Ellis is gonna,
Okay, that's fine. Okay, at this time, we are moving on to our next recognition, which is item 4.02 on tonight's agenda. This is for our PBIS model schools. Dr. Balkabin.
thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask our specialists to come and join us, Dr. Mandy Alice. And this is actually a recognition, this recognition really, it's a testament and a commitment to all of the hard work and dedication of our administrators, teachers, and staff when it comes to fostering a positive culture and climate at these schools. So I will have Dr. Ellis do the presentation for us.
All right, good evening, Dr. Balgobin, Chairwoman Haynes, School Board. It's very nice to see you all tonight. My name is Dr. Mandy Elsie, and I am the District Coordinator for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, better known as PBIS. Before we recognized our esteemed schools, and my apologies, I knew the party was coming, but I didn't know they'd be so decorated.
Oh, yeah.
We've got 7 schools that we want to recognize for being a PBIS model school. But I also wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on what PBIS is. Thank you. I always think I'm loud enough. But so I wanted to just give you a little bit of information and know that when you're out in your schools and walking the schools, you may see signage that say be respectful, be safe, be cooperative. We have reinforcement systems at every school, so it's going to look different. The thing that is most important, and we are aligned with Goal 3 of our strategic plan, the thing that's going to look different is this is not a curriculum. We don't come in and say, here's your PBIS curriculum. It's a framework for creating more successful students, empowering staff, creating a culture at the school. What we do when we go through the training is they bring all of their information about their individual schools and they put it together and they say, this is how we're going to do PBIS. It's really a very positive approach for teaching students what the expectations are. So, for example, when we learn to drive, we learn to follow the speed limit, at least some of us do. We learn how to turn safely, use our turn signals. That's what we want to do with our staff and students, is these are the expectations, and they're all really soft skills. Walking in the hall safely, being cooperative with your friends, being respectful of others. So those are the kinds of things that we teach the teachers and empower them, and then they go forth and have lesson plans and things like that that they teach the students what the expectations are, along with the signage. We really want to be able to respect the dignity of the individual. So while PBIS is a school-wide approach for behavior and discipline at Tier 1, we also work towards a Tier 2, where we're supporting small groups of individual students, or small groups of students that may have similar behaviors or similar needs. And then we also work at Tier 3, where that's that individualized support. It's all part of that MTSS framework. We always use a systems approach when we think about positive behavior support. So what is our school-wide system going to look like? How are we going to proceed? How do we involve the parents? How do we respect each other in the parent pickup or the parent drop-off loop? So we want to incorporate not only the students and the staff, but our whole school community. So when you're visiting with your principals and administration, you may hear a little bit about that, how the school community and the parents can become involved. When we look at supporting staff behavior, we really look at those systems, but we also want to make data-based decisions. So there are 2 points in the school year where the school teams will come together and they submit in the fall a PBIS implementation checklist where they kind of self-evaluate how they're doing, where they need to grow or where they need to focus. I do a walkthrough at every school where I look at their signage, I talk to kids, I talk to adults. Is this really part of the culture? And they get a score from that. But additionally, they have 3 assessments that they do at the end of the year called their benchmarks of quality, where they're looking at their entire year. That helps them to again, look at their data, how they're doing things, but also say, okay, what do we need to address next year? Because this really does need to be involved in the school. We also look at practices of supporting that student behavior. Additionally, we want those school-wide expectations to flow into the classroom. So every classroom has the school-wide expectations posted, but we ask them also to develop practices in their classrooms to support those soft skills, those expectations. When we have those things in place and when we're implementing with fidelity, we have better student outcomes. We see reductions in referrals. We see increased participation based on what might be a reward system. Not to say that we've been able to address every student, but school-wide, 80% is what we want to really buy into what we're doing. And then we'll do those tiered supports for students that may be struggling. There are 10 critical elements to PBIS down at the bottom right hand of your infograph. Teaming is really important. When we have a PBIS team comes together for the training, we want them to work on a common language. So if I go into a school, I look at their language and I'm going to use their language, but we want that consistency with this. These are our expectations. This is what Timbercrest Elementary or Deltona Lakes Elementary, this is how they involve PBIS. We always want that commitment. So we'll develop a mission statement. What is our commitment to this initiative? And what are the outcomes that we're hoping to see? When we think about discipline, we want consistent discipline practices in the school. We have our discipline office, we have a matrix, but we also want to have things such as a hierarchy of consequences, a phone call home, a time away, maybe it gets to an office referral, but we want to have those consistent practices as well. I mentioned data entry and analysis. They also look at their discipline data, they look at their attendance data, side by side with what they have submitted to the state of Florida. Their rewards program, their incentive programs, we have Bobcat Bucks, we have PBIS rewards, we have a focus reward system, so they align it with what is best for them. Developing their plan, we want to know how we're going to proceed and build on that plan year after year. Teaching the expectations, and we reteach the expectations when needed. Believe it or not, we teach them at the beginning of the year, we teach them after hurricanes, we teach them after Christmas break, we teach them after things. We've got to keep, just like you would your classroom expectations, we've got to keep reteaching so that it becomes part of that system. I mentioned that the classroom system should be based on those school-wide expectations, and then I've mentioned the evaluation system that they're required to go through. So, when we get ready to recognize our model schools, every year based on the end of the year data, the benchmarks of quality, the Florida PBIS project, which we have had a collaboration since 2011, looks at the criteria, looks at their discipline outcomes, looks at different things. Did they meet their data guidelines? And they can nominate. They say, okay, we've got these schools in your district that can be eligible. They worked very hard this year. They submit an application, and depending on what criteria they met, they can be bronze, silver, or gold. So we've got a little bit of everything tonight, and without further ado, I would really like to recognize our schools. And we're going to go in alphabetical order, correct, Celeste? Remember the alphabetical order? So we have...
I have it. Champion Elementary, yeah.
Elementary. So we would like to, they get a banner for their school. My apologies to Timbercrest Elementary, you have been...
Woohoo! Yeah.
I always ask them to bring their banner because we like to take the picture with the banner, and their banner is a little ragged now. So
They need a new one.
so they won't have their banner. And if we can ask you to join us for a picture.
Okay, we're gonna stay up. We're gonna stay.
So here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that these other schools are ready, but you need to call them. You need to call them. Darlene is calling them.
All right, everybody. And we bring this side down a little bit. A little Awesome. There we go. There we go. All right, guys, ready? 3, 2, 1.
I think we have Cypress Creek is next. Put it up front. But what I did bring in is
Sorry, I'm gonna have you guys walk just a little bit this way and then go to my side. There we go. If you can get a little bit closer for me, that would be great. All right, you look good. Ready? 3, 2, 1. There we go. Very good, guys. Thank you very much.
Deltona Lakes. Deltona Lakes here?
Deltona. Got it? All right, Deltona Lakes. Sarah.
You can't spell. Okay, that's fine.
The capital L.
This is our opening middle school.
He's had it for a few years. This is their first year. All right, there we go, guys.
Taylor, what are you doing?
Yeah, there we go. You guys knew what to do. I didn't even have to instruct you. All right, ready, guys? Look at me. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Perfect. You was making fun of me. That was so great. How much have I made? The right answer, guys. Raspberry. In front of you guys. All right, guys. The next one will be up in just a moment.
I didn't really know what the number was. I looked on the thing. I was like, what is that? That's a lot.
I saw you and I'm trying to hold myself.
I got you, didn't I?
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
Yeah, you guys get in.
This way a little bit for me. Just a big step this way.
I just don't want to.
Yeah, make sure you're not blocking anybody. I'll make sure.
Usually in the front.
Okay, let's have everybody step forward a little bit, and then can we have this side of the sign pulled up? There we go. All right, let's see if we can get everybody in. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and then you guys don't get to go to the second phone. So hold it. Hold it for me. 3, 2, 1. Oh, there you go. Now you can.
We're gonna have Timbercrest take a picture with your banner, and we can always change.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right?
Where'd Lonnie go?
Oh, they're lined up. They're lined up.
They're on deck.
So I'll give Lonnie my sign.
That's what Elise is now. Next up is March.
Port Orange and then take out.
That's right. Cut and paste.
It's like when you forget to stand.
Okay, awesome. Come on, Lonnie.
Write it out and then just put Timbercrest.
Perfect.
Listen.
Congrats, Lonnie. Good job. Good job, sir. Good job. Proud of you.
Actually, can we flip this backwards so it's blank on the back and not be able to click this?
Because all you have to do is change the top.
It would be easier if the whole thing was white.
It's not just take the logo on white. That's not gonna make it easier. If we just need to Photoshop the name, it should be okay.
That's what I'm saying, just leave it up and then we'll just clear the white part.
Yeah, it's easier if it's the whole thing's white, because you can take the logo and put it right on.
No.
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry.
She's gonna Photoshop.
I'm gonna Photoshop it. We're gonna
We'll just
Photoshop
add
it.
it in.
It'll look better. I promise.
She's a
We got webmaster.
This is Timbercrest.
I want to hear that today.
Timbercrest.
My roommate.
You guys can do
Sorry, I was getting excited. I
Right?
was talking to my roommate.
Does my hair look good?
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. 3,
6 years, you need to put that up there.
Yeah, we will, we will. Yes.
Hi, guys. Hi, Lonnie.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye, Michelle.
Yeah, 6 years is amazing.
He does it.
All right, save.
Save low. 100 years. Nice stand. Thank you. Congratulations. It's coming, dude. It's coming.
Oh, I know, you're fine. I was just trying to.
Okay, you guys go. Come on in, Crouch. We got 2 phones. You guys have to smile for a second, okay?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. And then let me get my phone too. Hold on for just a second. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. There we go, guys. Very good. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Volusia is in the house.
Okay, alrighty. See you the last one. We'll give you some more passes now. Alrighty, ready, guys? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Congratulations.
I'm well.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thanks, sir.
Awesome, girl. I know you're gonna keep that. So at this time, we're moving on to item 5.01, administrative appointments or transfers. Dr. Baldwin, do we have any administrative appointments today?
Madam Chair, I do have one, and at this time, I would like to ask Ms. Heidi George Crimmins to join us. I will share a little bit of background with you regarding Ms. Crimmins. She's obtained her bachelor's degree from the University of Central Florida. Go Knights. Her Juris Doctor's degree from Barry University, Orlando. Certification, she holds the Florida Bar, U.S. Middle District of Florida, July 2012. She started as a law clerk / legal assistant with the law office of Jeffrey Clean in Daytona Beach, became a supervising attorney for the state of Florida Guardian Ad Litem program in Daytona Beach, went on to becoming an assistant state attorney for the state of Florida State's Attorney's Office, 7th Circuit, Daytona Beach, became eminent domain attorney for the state of Florida Department of Transportation, District 5, DeLand, Florida, currently serving as the assistant state attorney for the state of Florida State's Attorney's Office, the 7th Circuit, Daytona Beach. With your approval, I'm recommending that today that Ms. Heidi George Crimmins is designated as a staff attorney in the Chief's Counsel's Office, and if approved, her effective start date will be March 3rd, 2025.
Thank you. Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. I have someone to make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Goodrich. Thank you. Ms. Brosmer, anyone have any comments? Ms. Thompson?
So I know someone who you used to work with, and casually we were just talking about this because I like to know, the background of people more than just what it says on a resume. And the feedback that I got was you were an extremely hard worker, went above and beyond, and were a very nice person that people would be sad to see you leave. And so I'm sad for other people that you are leaving. However, I was very excited to hear that combo in a person because it's kind of hard to find, and I'm really excited to see what you do here. So congratulations.
I'd like to add to that when I reviewed your resume, all of it is wonderful, but the piece that stood out to me was when you were the supervising attorney for the state of Florida Guardian Ad Litem. I don't think people understand how important that piece is, and I have had friends who were teachers that when they retired chose take on and be a guardian ad litem for a student or a child here in Volusia County, and it's always something that I've had on my list, that it's like, okay, once I retire, that is the position that I would like to do. I'd like to be that advocate and be that guardian for our children so that they have a voice. And so I think the fact that you've already worked through that piece too gives you a piece to moving into working with students, which is what we do every day. It already gives you a framework for that. And so I was very impressed when I reviewed your resume. Any other comments? Okay, then hearing none, at this time, we have a motion and a second, so I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of Heidi George Crimmins becoming the staff attorney for Volusia County Schools, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Welcome and congratulations.
Can I get a witness?
School board members, Madam Chair, Dr. Balgobin, I am deeply honored and grateful to be appointed to this position. I'm enthusiastic about the opportunities that lie ahead and committed to working diligently to serve you and the students of Volusia County Schools to the best of my abilities. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all those who have supported me and believed in me, and there are a lot. Particularly my family. Accompanying me tonight is my husband Jim and my sister Holly. Their unwavering support and encouragement are always invaluable to me. Becoming a lawyer is my second career. The majority of my legal career has been dedicated to public service. By accepting this position, I believe I am contributing to the highest form of service by supporting the students of Volusia County who represent the future of our community. Thank you once again for this significant honor.
Thank you. And you don't get away quickly. You have to come forward with your family for a photo. Okay. So.
Hello, hello, welcome.
Congratulations, I logged on.
So can I just airdrop this to you? Oh, you can airdrop me, probably better with that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You guys get all condensed together a little bit, just a little bit closer.
Come on, Amber.
I can have two more.
You don't get to do this all.
Sorry. Can you go directly in front of Mrs. Haynes?
And you don't get to us Caprice.
Right in front of Ms. Haynes, that would be wonderful. That'd be great. Amber, can you come right in front between you and Mrs. Just a little step left, and then you can come a little bit closer.
We got it.
Thank you.
I'll just hold you right here, Amber.
All right, everybody. Ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Tell my old boyfriend.
Yes,
absolutely.
We know how it's from.
Oh, you have no idea.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing
I know. Hence the prolonged applause.
Thank you.
Down one more to go.
Had a good one. It is not yet 6 o'clock, so we are moving on to item 7.01, which is removal of any items from the consent agenda. Dr. Balgobin, do you wish to remove any items this evening from the consent agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Board members, do you wish to remove any items? If so, Ms. Brosmer?
I have a few, and none of these are for separate votes. These are just all a couple of random questions that I have on a couple of items. The first one is 10.01.
10.01,
Correct. 11.02
okay.
and 12.03.
All right, do I have any other board members that wish to remove any items for discussion separately?
10.01.
I have one, 13.01, just to draw people's attention to that piece. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and start with item 10.01.
Yes, I would like to ask Ms. Copeland, Jacquees Copeland, I think she's here in the audience. Ms. Brosmer, I think I know your question, but you may want to ask it for the record.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Mine is really just looking for an idea. Some of the wording in this is very broad. And so I was looking for an example of, for instance, the purpose of IDEA. I understand I'm not supposed to say IDEA. So the purpose of Part B is to provide additional funding to meet the need of providing special education and related services to children with disabilities. Can you give me an example of how that would be applied?
Yes, so we use these funds to sponsor professional learning for teachers. These are how we pay our paraprofessionals. We also use these funds to hire district placement specialists that coach teachers in the ESE classroom. And to also we use this for technology needs that our students have.
Okay, and do I understand correctly that the only portion of this that we're going into is the 28,000, that the rest of that has been allocated already?
All of the funds have been allocated, but we had an allocation adjustment. So there were two grants. The first one is the IDA Part B in our preschool, and so we gained $28,100.37. In our K-12, we did have an allocation adjustment of over $400,000, which we had to decrease, and we had to make budget adjustments because of the decrease from the state.
How do those adjustments happen?
So what happens is it's part of our roll forward. So we projected for our K-12 that we were going to have a roll forward of $1.5 million, but our expenditures were only a little over $900,000. So the state came back and took back the portion that we did not use, so we had to readjust the roll forward piece.
Okay. I think those are all my questions on that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland.
You're welcome.
We're moving now on to item 11.02, the budget amendment for fiscal year 2024-25 through November 30th.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes, and I know Mr. Cease is here. Yeah, there he is.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. We actually had a chance to talk about this before the meeting, and so I want to thank Mr. Cease for two things. One is for the narrative that goes with the budget amendment. I think that's extremely helpful. And the other is we talked about the possibility of making that budget amendment public, whether it's in the board docs library, which still doesn't have any documents in it, or on the website, which I think may be more practical. However that's done, I think it's really helpful to the public to be able to access it. So I just, unless you have something to say, that I just wanted to say thank you.
We'll take it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to share, we have a fiscal transparency page. So what I'm going to do is create another page on there, and then put my monthly financial statements and post them there, if that's okay.
I think the narrative is especially helpful because for people like me who look at a budget and have no idea what it means, the narrative is really helpful, and I especially appreciate that you did that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seuss.
Now we're moving on to item 12.03, contract amendment to MSA-2025-7001, Agriculture, Education Services, and Technology.
Okay, Ms. Gore, we have someone here.
Kristen?
Oh, I
Dr.
see.
Pierce.
I see. Dr. Pierce?
Good evening.
Good evening. This is probably a really quick question. I was just curious to know, since we just approved, if I'm reading the agenda correctly, we just approved 50,000 at the last meeting. And so I wondered what this is.
So we did approve or Dr. Balbigan approved the 49,999.
Right.
But we are anticipating a 35% increase in the number of Ag Associate tests. So there are 6 different tests in AEST. So we're looking at $80,000 to $85,000, $90,000 at this point that we're anticipating. And we only buy these as needed, so we don't stockpile any of the exams. This is Christy Grisauskas. She's our industry search specialist, so I'm going to let her add her 2 cents in.
Thank you, Board. Yes, we are just ordering the exams as the teachers need them, and we're following our purchasing guidelines to make sure that Dr. Balgobin signs off. And then as we feel that we need more, we reach out, work with our purchasing team, and they put forth a contract at a higher rate that needs to be board approved so we can continue to purchase our exams for our teachers and students.
And this is all for agriculture? Well, that's one of my pet areas, so that's
Agriculture is one of our biggest CTE program areas in the district. We have the most number of students middle and high school, so it's definitely a win-win for us, agriculture.
Well, I love hearing that. Okay, that's all I wanted to know, just how we went from one meeting to the next with the same amount, and I just wondered how that happened. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. The one item I pulled was just really to let teachers and faculty and staff know out of the school that we've heard them. And I have to even give Mrs. Burnett a lot of credit because she kept saying, which we agreed with her, why are we blocking out days like for makeup, for hurricane weather and things like that, when we already know that people anticipate having the full week off for Thanksgiving and they make their plans early to fly somewhere or to be with family. And so the calendar committee came back and they met, and we have removed the Thanksgiving break from being weather set-aside days so that people will still have their full week of Thanksgiving. They don't have to worry about if I make plans and then we have a hurricane and the board decides to use one or two of the days during Thanksgiving week. Now, I'm stuck because if they buy plane tickets and things like that. And so we talked a lot about this last year and just said, we just need to leave Thanksgiving week alone and allow people to have that time off and spend it with their family. So they met, the calendar committee met, and they came up with a new plan. So I just felt it was important that everyone that works in our schools hears that it's okay to go ahead and plan for your Thanksgiving break. And I was afraid they may not read that piece on there, and it's important. And Dr. Balgobin, I would like to request that this information possibly go out in an email to all employees so that they have it now and know that next year we're not going to hold any of the days during Thanksgiving break for weather makeup.
Yeah, we are waiting for approval before we can.
Well, I know, and I'm anticipating there's going to be approval, but I do think they need to know that. So, board members, any other items? Okay, then I need someone to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Thank you, Mrs. Brosmer. And No further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving all of the items on the consent agenda for this evening, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then it passes unanimously. All right, then we are still not at 6 PM. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and we will be back in here at 6 PM to do public comment. I currently have 3 cards, if anyone else is needing to fill out a card. So we'll be back in here at 6 PM. Thank you. Welcome back. We're now moving on to item 15.01, which is public participation time. I currently have 4 cards, and so I will call the first person and name the second person, so the second person is ready when the first person finishes. You'll each have 3 minutes during that time. I need the audience to be respectful and not call out, making any sounds, noises. If you want to show appreciation for what the person's speaking about, you can do a thumbs up or jazz hands. If you disagree, you can do a thumbs down. But at this time, speaker number 1 this evening will be Elizabeth Albert, followed by Patricia Stevenson. Okay, the first one that I have for you is for yourself. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Balgobin, members of the audience, I would just like to take a moment to remind everyone who is here tonight and those who are listening at home that this week, yes, this week, is Public Schools Week. What a fabulous week. I'm so glad that we're stopping to take a moment and celebrate all the fabulous work that's done in our public schools. Public Schools Week is a bipartisan celebration of our nation's public schools. It is designed to honor the dedicated women and men who work tirelessly to provide for the education and holistic needs of our children, because as any great educators know, Maslow's comes before Bloom's. We all know our basic needs have to be met before we can learn. So public schools are the foundations of our democracy and the cornerstone of our communities. 87% of America's children are educated in our public schools. How about that? And so just want to give a quick shout out to all the Volusia County schools, teachers, support staff, administrators, and leaders in our district who do what needs to be done every day to make sure that our children are a priority. So I hope that you will join with me in being public school proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Stevenson is next, and then Ms. Albert, you'll follow her. Welcome.
Resident at 29 Sanctuary Ave. I'm speaking tonight as a resident and not a representative of my council or my city, and I am opposed to item 17.01, the sale of the Buckley property. First of all, thank you, Chairwoman Haynes, for addressing my question that I emailed to you. From what I understand, committees have not been able to resume, and so I would like to address you all as a board and encourage you to please bring back committees. I was one of the appointed persons from my council to be on the committee to improve the communication between the school board and our city. It was a meeting normally with the staff, not with the board, and the staff would communicate plans that might be related to our city. We related what things were going on in our city as far as development, and I think that that's very important. I think we should all strive to have better communication with our constituents and leaders for all of our respective towns and cities, so please try to reinstate committees. One of the most difficult but also most important jobs that a leader has is to make sure that everyone on their team has the same information. Committees and better communication between the board and staff, as well as between our different boards, will only improve our ability to serve the residents. I agree that we need another school in DeBary. All of my neighbors agree we need another school in DeBary, and we were very excited when you guys purchased this property over on Buckley. We have a lot of new residential construction going on in the south side of town, and a new school over there makes sense. Some of the commonalities, I know you guys have the pros and cons, some of the commonalities between Springview and Buckley that I feel like were ignored is that both would require a school zone on 1792. There's not that much difference in the distance from 1792 for either the Springview or the Buckley site. They would both require a stoplight as well as a crosswalk and probably crossing guards, a process that with FDOT is going to take time. On my way from DeBary here, I drove through 2 such school zones on 1792 in Orange City. It can be done. It can be. I've also seen the ground study that you did for Buckley's site that would require some require some fill dirt and muck removal, but has a similar study also been done on the Springview site because a large portion of that property was previously used for stormwater collection and might also have the same kind of muck and fill needs. To be fair, I feel like we need to evaluate the costs for both sides objectively and not just have speculation for the numbers. Speaking of costs, I can also understand why the school board would be interested in working with a developer, because who doesn't want a brand new state-of-the-art school in their community? In my opinion, Buckley site is superior, and I ask you, please do not sell this site. We do have plans that we could share with you that might help make it a better place.
Thank you. Mrs. Albert, followed by Diana Faraday. This time you're speaking for someone else.
Yes, that's correct. So thank you for that. All right. Good evening, Board. Dr. Balgobin. I am at a meeting today, so I'm unable to attend this meeting in person, but I would like to comment on two things tonight. First, I listened to the last school board workshop, and it's amazing to see all the wonderful things we are doing to support our students with disabilities and exceptionalities. I'm also excited to see the differentiation plan for the upcoming years. I have a few suggestions. I have 159 students as of today. Of those students, 36 have an IEP, 7 have a 504, 6 are ELL, and 1 has a BIP. I can explain those later if you need them. I love the ability to go above and beyond to differentiate for my students. However, most of my students who need extra help are shoved into 2 classes. In one of my classes, 17 out of 30 students have an IEP. I have an amazing support facilitator who helps me to differentiate for my students, but she is only there 2 days a week. Unfortunately, with budget cuts last year, we have had to cut a lot of our support staff. In order to meet the requirements of their IEP, where support facilitators are required, they had to put more students with an IEP in these classes. Battling with behaviors on top of distractions is extremely challenging. My suggestion would be to increase the amount of support facilitators next year so we can spread out our students who need the help. Second, I would like to talk about Ed Modified. I have become increasingly frustrated with the system. The old way a classroom teacher could document was through focus. I would put comments in the assignment such as student refused to get off technology and work on assignment, or student refused to do the work. Now with this system, it shows up as a large log daily, which is hard to look back and see my notes. My suggestion would be, can we make it where we can document per assignment rather than per day for secondary world? At least make it an option. Some assignments take multiple days, but the same accommodations are used each day. Additionally, can we have the system talk with focus and automatically make kids who are absent? When I would document in gradebook, it would show a red dot if a student was absent, so I would know that they would need additional time on top of extended time to complete assignments. Now I have to go back and forth, and it is very time consuming. Thank you for your time this evening and for listening, Mrs. Lupita.
Thank you. Next up is Diana Faraday. Welcome.
Evening, members of the school board, superintendent, educational staff, members of the audience. I'm a resident of Ormond Beach. I am an avid reader. I was an editor for 40 plus years. I love the written word. I love books. That's why I'm beyond distressed when I see the list of banned books in Volusia County grow and grow and grow. And now you have added The Kite Runner, which I think is a very important book for our time. I believe you are robbing our school children of a critical part of learning, particularly learning how to be critical thinkers. You're robbing them of a well-rounded education, which will hinder students from Volusia County who plan to go to institutions of higher learning in other states, because they're not going to have the background that other students have in those colleges. I understand that you are still reviewing Policy 320, which determines how books can be challenged and removed from school campuses. My understanding is that the policy does not allow for an appeal process before a book is removed, and that there is no policy for reinstating a banned book in a timely manner. That should change. Our teachers and our media specialists know how to do their jobs. I certainly hope you do not view them as groomers, as a recent speaker labeled them. They are professionals who are trained to review and select age-appropriate books. I urge you to rely on their expertise and let them be the guides. And please revise Policy 320 to include an appeal process and a way to reinstate books in a timely manner. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we are now moving on to the first presentation, 1601. Dr. Balgobin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask Dr. Kuhn, our Chief Technology Officer, who will be joined by Jelena Zivko, our Senior Instructional Technology Specialist. They are going to share with you a little bit about our Tri-Systems Filtering Committee research, and they will explain to you what that is.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Balgobin. Today, I'll be giving you a presentation on digital content filtering systems. 3 of them, how they are similar and how they are different. With me today also is Jelena Zivko, and she is a senior instructional technology specialist in the ITS Division's Ed Tech Department. She is also the chair of the committee that we'll be discussing. The authority for this comes under Policy 527, Software Selection, Adoption, and Retirement, and Software 219, Student Technology Use. It's also in the CTO job description, especially software systems selection and evaluation for the entire district. And these systems definitely cover the entire district. The goal, of course, is for all students to engage in high levels of learning every day, and these systems have a very large impact on that. Also, guardrails 2 and 3, providing conditions, they provide the conditions that enhance student learning and improve operational efficiency and maximize resources to support student learning. All right, now let's talk a little bit about what these things are. So these 3 digital content filters are similar yet different. They all filter and scan the internet. They have very similar programming code, but what they look for and what they do with it makes them a little different. So the big internet web content filter, that one scans and filters everything coming in or out of the school district from the outside world. So that's the one that is legally required by CIPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act, and it keeps kids from going to inappropriate websites, essentially. It does a little more than that, but that's its main purpose. The safety filter also scans our digital content, but it does so internally. So it's all of the things the students write, send emails, anything they do digitally. And it's looking for evidence of harm, either to themselves or to others, and then it alerts the appropriate authorities. The last filter is the classroom management filter. It's much like the district's internet filter, except for just for the classroom. And it's controlled by the teacher themselves. So it's for just their students, and it comes with extra features to help the teacher manage the behavior in their classroom, direct learning, keep students on task when they're on digital devices. So all 3 of these systems work in tandem because they are so similar, and when they all work well, they do a good job keeping our students on task in their learning. I'm about to turn it over to Ms. Zivko. She has the committee that she chaired, and she was given this committee for a very intentional reason. She knows all of these filter systems, but especially the one we were really concerned about, which is the classroom management filtering system. She had a representative committee, and I'll turn it over to her now.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board, and Dr. Balgobin. I'm Jelena Zivko, and I'm honored to have served on the committee, or the chair of this committee. As Dr. Kuhn mentioned, the purpose of the committee was to research and vet softwares for these 3 critical related systems. 2 of these systems have contracts that are ending soon. We reviewed the vendors that offer 1 or all 3 of these systems. Just to reiterate, a district web filter is the system mandated by the Federal Children's Internet Protection Act to scan and filter digital traffic within a district's domain, blocking dangerous, inappropriate, and malicious content. A safety alert filter is a system that scans digital traffic within a district's domain to alert on dangerous, inappropriate, and potentially harmful content written by students using their VCS accounts. The classroom behavior management filter software helps teachers monitor and manage student computing behavior in a classroom setting. The system can limit and direct digital traffic on student VCS accounts, allowing teachers to control the digital content students see and use for instructional purposes, similar to a district web filter, but specific to one classroom under teacher control. I am grateful for the classroom teachers and the district employees serving on the committee who dedicated countless hours above and beyond their normal workday to research these vendors and put forth some recommendations. The committee began by gathering information and evaluating 16 leading vendors that offer these types of systems. Through our process, we gained a clear understanding of the technical landscape of these vendors' offerings and how their products function in a school environment. We compared the features of their products to our current systems and to each other. We considered many factors such as interoperability between the systems and within a Microsoft environment, cost, reliability, and how the data used by all three can provide a holistic understanding of student online behavior. We also took into account the performance of the three products we are currently using. We hold high standards and aim for all three systems to perform at an A grade level. Additionally, as part of our vetting process, we requested vendors to complete questionnaires. We met and interviewed each vendor at the FETC conference, conducted live demos, and they provided references from neighboring like-sized districts for us to contact. As a committee, we reviewed the data, engaged in discussions, and formulated our recommendations. I presented the committee's recommendations for all three major functions to leaders from TLL, Safety and Security, and ITS to consider. This slide illustrates the list of vendors which we began our journey. The committee completed 4 phases of evaluation, which included research, vendor surveys, product demonstrations, and reference contacts to narrow down our recommendations as referenced in the last column of this slide.
I want to reiterate that Ms. Zhivko did a great job with this committee, and the people that were on it did a very good job too. They didn't get extra pay to do this. They just did this because it's the best thing to be doing for our kids. As you could see, they narrowed things down, quickly down to 3 recommendations. Go Guardian, Gaggle, and Lightspeed, 3 different companies. And those were then considered even further after the recommendations to narrow them down to the exact choices. On this slide, you're seeing what we currently use and what we chose to use going forward. Now, almost exactly to the day, 3 years ago, you received a presentation from my predecessor and the previous superintendent on these 3 systems. They used a much briefer way of determining those 3. They basically asked a consultant to give them a package of 3 and then went with that. We chose not to do that. We went with a more thorough and internal process, more inclusive of many different groups within the educational community, including teachers, safety and security, TLL, and ITS personnel. We made sure that we interviewed everyone, and we also interviewed other school districts that use the products to come to our own conclusions. So when the committee gave us their recommendations, we decided that we would go with Lightspeed for our district web filter, continue with Gaggle for our safety alert filter, and classroom management filter would be also Lightspeed. You can see that the price went down by almost $100,000. That was not our only consideration. but it did go down, and it was a consideration because, of course, we want to get the best bang for our buck. This is guaranteed pricing for 3 years from Lightspeed. That's in the contract, and this contract is actually already authorized. You did it last meeting when you authorized CDW, which is a reseller of Lightspeed, and they have a discounting contract that is already in place. We just completed their data privacy addendum for student data privacy, so we're ready to start implementing. The cost will come on this summer after the implementation is completed. The implementation will be at no cost, no additional cost. We're very happy with Lightspeed and Gaggle. We're happy with the new systems in Lightspeed because they come with a lot of great references. These are just 4 that fit on this slide from Florida school districts. They have international and national clients across the country. They have 2 others that you're not seeing here from Florida, one from Manatee County and one from Clay County. The Manatee one I want to really point out, it's from a friend of mine, Scott Hansen, who is the Chief Technology Officer there. We got on Teams with him, and he brought on 12 of his senior staff and engineers, which we did not realize he would be doing. So he had a big group with us and really went through it very thoroughly. They implemented Lightspeed about 1.5 years ago. So their recommendation and their information was very key to us in Manatee County. Clay County, Duval, Palm Beach, Sarasota, and Marion, all of them had good things to say about Lightspeed. This is a very dense slide. It gives the main features of all 3 systems. I'm not going to go all through all 3 of these with you, but I do want to highlight the most innovative piece, which is the Lightspeed Classroom Management System. This is going to be a game changer for our teachers. We had, of course, wanted this to be a game changer 3 years ago, at least my predecessor, when they put in another system called Impuro. But Impuro never worked well. As you might have noticed in the previous slide, we gave that a D-. We attempted to get it to work many different times, but it was built for private small schools in England. It was not made for large enterprise environments in the United States, and it could never really work well for us here. We could get it working for a few months at a time, and then it would break again. So we're going to something that is much more reliable and hopefully will be that game changer we want it to be. And it's very modern, more modern than Impuro could have ever been. It comes with some really cool features. Screen monitoring. Now that means that as a teacher, I can see what's going on every screen in my classroom through a dashboard. I could put it up on the TV in the classroom, or I could look at it right on my own computer. Web access restrictions. I can restrict the web. So if I want to do an activity, for example, with artificial intelligence, but I don't want them to get on artificial intelligence until it's time, I can restrict the artificial intelligence, do the activity, and then get the input from the artificial intelligence when I turn the web back on for my students. Direct messaging. The teacher can direct message any machine in the room. If a student is misbehaving, they can get them back on task with that message, or they can say, "Are you ready to share your work?" I can mirror your work to every device in the classroom as an example. That's the screen sharing. They can also screen share their own screen. So if the teacher's trying to model instruction, for instance, they can take over every screen and model what they're doing to teach the students. AI insights and alerts. Think of this one as a mini version of the safety monitoring system. The safety monitoring system is for the entire district, and it alerts authorities, like law enforcement, for instance, or principals. But the AI insights and alerts alerts the teacher. And it may not be something that is big that Gaggle might find, but it may be patterns that are still concerning about what that student is searching for or writing about or doing inside the classroom environment that the teacher still needs to be aware of. Customizable class controls. Teachers can lock devices, close tabs, or limit web access for secure testing. So for instance, if they're in a particular test and they don't want the students cheating or going anywhere else on the internet, they can just lock them into a particular test and the students can't do anything else until that lock is taken off. And then finally, the last 2, integration with Microsoft. That's important to us. We are a Microsoft district and integrate seamlessly with Microsoft Teams and other education tools. And group management for cooperative learning. We can put them into particular groups, and then the teacher can do things with just those particular groups. For instance, they could allow one group to be sharing with the rest of the class while the other ones are locked off their computers at the moment so that they can be focusing on that group's content. It comes with many other tools, but those are the main things that we hope to give our teachers so that they can better manage the behavior in their classrooms. A lot of our teachers love educational technology, but the biggest complaint we get is that it can sometimes be a distraction or hard to manage for them from a behavior point of view. So this gives them that tool that alleviates that concern. Now we'll open up to questions for myself or Ms. Zhivko.
Ms. Brosmer.
I was looking at, thank you for this, because this is an area that is, as you know, unfamiliar to me. So I appreciate your explanation. I was interested in the web filter system to scan digital traffic moving in and out of the district's domain to filter out dangerous, inappropriate, or malicious content. I think we probably can pretty much agree on what's dangerous or malicious, but inappropriate tends to be almost a subjective, or have a subjective definition. So does the filter work by text? So if a student downloads a book, is the title restricted because the district knows that it would be inappropriate and it's programmed that way? Or is it, does the filter work by the text in the book, and how is that implemented?
That's an interesting question. I have not heard that one before. I do know ways that the filter works. I'm not sure if it works to that depth. If the student searched for a title of a book, it certainly would work on the title. So if the title had inappropriate words in it, it wouldn't allow that. It would allow the search, but what would come up is that this is blocked. Okay. In terms of the actual content of a book, if the title of the book was not anything that would normally get caught by, inappropriate words or something like that, it probably would allow links to that particular book to be found. I don't think it would scan the actual content of the book unless the book was in a particular format. Like, for instance, let's say the book was published on a website, and it can read a website. But if it was, say, a PDF, and it was just a file download of that PDF, it probably would not be able to scan every word in the PDF. So it's very dependent on what format that text was in. Another way the filter works is it works on known dangerous servers. So for instance, let's say that students are searching for something and a hit comes up that is coming from a server in, say, China. And there's a lot of bad stuff on that particular server. Then the filter will just block that entire server. And it'll just say, there's a lot of malicious things that typically come from this server, so we're just not letting any content come from there. So it kind of catalogs the whole internet in the world and knows the good guys and the bad guys and keeps the kids away from the bad guys. The other piece to this is the tuning process. Many of these systems, pretty much all three of these really, come with a tuning time. That's where during implementation, during the first 6 to 9 months, you have to adjust it back and forth. So for instance, something might get over-filtered or under-filtered. Games is a good example. We have certain educational games that our teachers use that we authorize because we like them. They're good. They're curricular. They're effective. But there's other games that we don't authorize because they don't have really great academic content and they're kind of a waste of time. And so to figure out which ones to tune into the system and which ones to let through takes some adjustment. There's also manual adjustment. Our cybersecurity team is that last line of manual adjustment. They have something called the allow list or the block list. So they can always take something that the filters are not automatically catching and just plain filter it or plain allow it. That can sometimes happen, for example, in specialized classes. We just recently got a request from a social studies class at a high school that is researching something that has some Native American massacres in it. And those massacres are getting caught by the filter because of the many things inside that material. So we have opened a few websites up to make sure that research can happen to override the filtering. So there's a lot of ways this gets done, but after the tuning gets done, it starts to become better and better at its job.
And then do teachers, do they approach you to say, I was thinking of the games in particular. We want to be able to access this game. Can you change the filter?
Yes, usually that's done through an incident IQ technical support request. We get them regularly, and then those get forwarded right away to our cybersecurity team, and then they evaluate the request. Sometimes it comes through other channels. Sometimes it's through TLL, for instance. They may have a curriculum that they're about to adopt, and they already know certain things in that curriculum need to be checked by the filter. So it depends on the source, but it's mostly through the technical support system.
Okay, thank you.
Thompson?
Thank you. And I want to thank you guys for doing very, very thorough research on this. I think I can speak for many people to say thank you. And I also did enjoy how diverse the committee members were and that you had teachers on there really in there, because I feel like we hear from teachers constantly about some of these issues that seem to be addressed by Lightspeed. Also, I do like the cost savings. I don't think anyone's going to say they don't like the cost savings, but I'm going to say it out loud. I really appreciate that. I'm glad it wasn't the focal point.
I want to take a moment for a second to correct myself on the teachers part that you just mentioned. They were paid extra to be on the committee. Not the others were not, the district staff were not, but the teachers were.
Well, lovely. Thanks for adding that in there. I loved going through everything with Lightspeed and how much the teachers can control. I know I've heard from parents and teachers before where they're nervous about their students being in screens. If a teacher has, multiple students that they're trying to monitor and walk around, they can't always catch everything, and that's been a big concern. So I love that you can turn off the web and you can monitor the screens, you can pull up the screens. So very excited about that. Glad we're keeping Gaggle. So just thank you guys so much for being extremely thorough on this research.
Thank you.
Mr. Cologne?
And so again, you took my thunder because I'm always big on ensuring that folks know who are the folks who are part of the decision making. And so thank you for including that in this presentation. I also want to say thank you. I am a huge fan of Gaggle, not only because of the work that it does, but the amount of time that it saves our folks. Yes, there are other companies who are able to bring raw data forward. However, the thought that Gaggle, and I'll give you an example, we had a student who, let's say, was looking up, what are the suicide rates in teens in Florida? And that research may be research related. And so the fact that somebody looks at that and says, okay, this is not someone looking on how to harm themselves. This is someone who's in high school, age appropriate, and so then can forward that information to us. I think that's invaluable in a world that we always add more and more and more. And so I'm grateful that you all brought that forward as a recommendation. And I am hopeful. I know that Gaggle is offering a lot of other services in addition to these, and so I am hopeful that we are also looking into some of those as well. But I am happy with these 3 recommendations, and we'll be supporting it. Thank you.
I want to give a shout out for Gaggle too. I've been very impressed with how that system has worked. So my question goes back to on slide 9 where you said if you were to grade the current 3 systems that we had that we were using and the grades that you gave them. So did you set up some type of criteria in which you used to come up with those grades?
No. I said if we were to grade them. So this is pretty subjective.
Okay.
I would say that this is based off of our experience with them over the last 3 years. Content Keeper giving it a C+. We have some reservations about its capabilities and its modernness. It's lacking in some ways. And we've had some outages that they were not as quick to support us on as we would like. Hard to get a hold of people, that sort of thing. So, we're looking for a higher standard with filters. And I have experience with a lot of different filters in other school districts that I've worked in. And so I know what I could be expecting, and I'm not getting it at the level I would like. D- for Impero is almost generous. That software has been really problematic. When it was chosen, it was chosen in such a way, I think, that it was not really looked at very thoroughly like their committee did.
Okay, so my question is moving forward, because looking at all the things that Lightspeed offers, they offer things that do make a lot of this easier, because, prior to me getting on the board, we would have teachers sometimes call in and tell us, could we look at a specific time to see what a student was doing, because it didn't appear the student was accomplishing the task. And so, we were able to log in, because she would give us the time, and, that the student was going to be on the computer, and we were able to log in and see, oh yeah, very quickly they would put the screen up of what they were supposed to be doing, but they had how many things open behind that screen, which is what they were actually doing. And at that time, our only option was to throw up a sticky note that said, close your other tabs, or something like that. We see what you're doing, and let the teacher, know that, yes, they're not doing what you've assigned. So I like that piece of it. But my question would be, is the plan to implement this in the fall?
So our implementation plan is the Gaggle, of course, is already implemented, right? So that's kind of easy for us. We're just rolling along with Gaggle, and we'll renew it this summer. So there's really not a lot of work to do there. There's one little piece. We have to decouple it from Content Keeper, but that's not a big deal. We can handle that technically. The filter is a very big deal to us, because like we said, it's legally required. So we can't go without a filter for any amount of time, or we would be breaking the law and it would cause anarchy. So that is our first implementation starting next month. So next month we will have a team of engineers coming for 3 days to do the Lightspeed content filter. We're not starting with the classroom one for obvious reasons. It's not as big a deal right now. And Impero is still working in some of our classrooms. It's not that it's completely unfunctional, it just breaks a lot. So it's still being used and can still be used for a while longer. But once the content filter, the web filter, has been implemented, we will be pivoting right away, and the Ed Tech department is already doing their research and getting ready with their plans to implement the classroom management system. We'll be putting out the communications in the ITS spring newsletter, and we'll be doing lots of training over the summertime, and it's meant to be start of day one for next school year that you could be able to use the classroom management system.
So is your intent on the filter piece to do it over spring break when everyone's off campus? And
yes, as a matter of fact, those 3 days that their engineers are coming are the 3 days before spring break. But we are not necessarily going to turn it on during spring break. It kind of depends on how that 3 days goes. So we did that as to have the option if we need to test some things when nobody's around during spring break, just as a testing environment. But when the time comes and we feel really comfortable with it, it'll probably be over a weekend and nobody will even notice.
Okay. So what I'd like to encourage you to do is, after you've implemented this and you've had it access to everyone using it for a full year, could you go back and give it a grade also? Because I read all the recommendations, and I appreciate the fact that you went to that many other districts that were using it, and you talked to them and found out their feedback. I mean, that's what we should always do, because if someone's using the product, 9 times out of 10, they can tell us if it's working or not. But I'd like to hear back, a year, not a year from now, because you won't have had a full year of implementation, but, like maybe a full year from this summer.
End of next school year would be good.
Yes, that would be good, to just hear how it's worked and has it come through with everything that we thought it would.
I'll make a note of that. We'll give you a progress update.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Coolin. Thank you.
So at this point, we are moving on to item 16.02. the Volusia Sheriff's Office and Volusia County Schools, the 2024 year in review. Dr. Balgobin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we already have our presenter almost seated, Captain Todd Smith. He will share with you a presentation about our partnership with the Volusia County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening, Superintendent, Madam Chair, and board members. I'm Captain Todd Smith, the Director of Safety and Security for Volusia County Schools. This presentation is in alignment with Policy 511. This presentation also aligns with Guardrail 2, providing conditions that enhance student learning. Let's start the trip down memory lane. We'll start with a short video. So this is a review of the collaboration between Volusia County Schools and the Volusia Sheriff's Office during 2024. Please remember that this is the year 2024, not the school year. So the mission of the Safety and Security Department is to provide a safe and successful learning environment for all students, faculty, and staff through respect, cooperation, and trust. Sheriff Chitwood brought ComStat, a performance management system used to achieve department goals, to the Volusia Sheriff's Office. There are 4 components to ComStat that we follow: timely and accurate intelligence sharing, rapid deployment of resources, effective tactics, and relentless follow-up. So during 2024, we literally saved lives. Although we have numerous examples, here are 2. The first was from a young man who wrote, "This is blank. Chances are if you're reading this, I'm already dead, so don't go doing anything." After catching the communication, we were able to contact the parent in real time and prevent the child from killing himself. In a second case, a student wrote, "I'm in class and I'm thinking about suicide and I can't stop. I'm thinking positive, please help me stop it." Using our cutting edge technology, we were again able to catch the communication and get the child the mental health treatment that they needed. It isn't every day that you have the opportunity to see how clearly a life is saved, and this is a glimpse into what we are doing and what we are capable of doing. There is a lot invested into this partnership between the Sheriff's Office and Volusia County Schools. Sometimes we lose track of the accomplishments. With that in mind, I wanted to go over some of our most notable achievements for 2024. K-9 Maverick. Volusia County Schools now is an employee in the Volusia Family Resource Center to bridge the gap once a child is arrested. No longer are kids sitting at home waiting to be cleared to come back to school. DARE is back. We implemented House Bill 1473 more seamlessly than many other counties in the state. All school resource officers and school resource deputies are ADA trained. We did awesome with our Auditor General audit. All school resource officers and school resource deputies receive specialized training in crisis intervention. Our audits by the Office of Safe Schools have been great. We've done 35 internal audits with no deficiencies. Deputies went through SORAT training. Random metal detector screenings were implemented. The Volusia Sheriff's Office developed a first of its kind Gun Safety for Parents and Guardians brochure to provide to parents whose children have made a threat of violence. We integrated cutting-edge mapping into Centegix so law enforcement and fire have access to the best mapping during a high-stress incident. All secondary schools were staffed with a school resource officer or deputy. All law enforcement jurisdictions agreed to staff their jurisdictions with their officers. We added a second school resource sergeant and a second lieutenant. We are implementing a new school guardian inventory database with the help of our IT department. 10 elementary schools were outfitted with high-definition cameras. Volusia County Schools joined the Florida School Safety Specialist Compliance Committee and helped draft the first ever School Safety Specialist Handbook, developing the stirrup standards for Florida school safety. A school traffic safety volunteer program was developed, training volunteers to help students cross driveways. Centegix was implemented on all deputies' computers, cutting out all middlemen and alerting all deputies in real time to a threat. All school resource deputies were trained on and provided with autism kits to assist with daily activities. As I conclude tonight, I want to reiterate that these are highlights just from the last year. We will continue pushing forward, staying on the forefront of state and national best practices. We are always striving to be the best in the business, and we will continue pushing forward.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions? We appreciate everything that you do and your team. And I think it is time to talk about the successes. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to you and your team because I feel like I hear about something that's happening in a different district that sounds really cool and I come to you and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing that, or we're about to do that, or we've already looked into that and actually this is better than that. So I feel like you're not complacent and okay, we're doing well, this is fine. You're constantly looking to improve everything that we have going on. There's so many different things safety-wise. So I love how much you love making our school safe. I really sincerely do, and so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
At this time, we're moving on to item 17.01, response to the unsolicited letter of intent to purchase property. I have one comment card on this, so we have one public speaker. Ms. Allison Root, if you'll come forward to speak, please.
Hi, good evening, board members. I just had some concerns regarding this. I mean, the property was purchased in December of 2023 is when we agreed to purchase it, and everybody was ecstatic that we had found it, and then apparently took 6 months to close because it was July of 24 when we actually obtained it. In January, we put it on here that we're going to possibly sell it, and it was tabled for a very good reason, and that reason is more information. That information, to my knowledge, has not been shared with anybody in the public. Furthermore, I have concerns on where did the money come from to purchase the property, and where is the money when we get the proceeds going to, things of that nature. So I just hope that you guys will take the time to reconsider and maybe inform the public of what we're doing with this. Let us ask questions, give us time before we just go negotiating getting rid of land that we know we need a school in DeBerry for. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we're on item 17.01. Dr. Balgobin.
Yes, I would like to ask Ms. Patricia Kaur, our Chief Operating Officer, and I think she's here with Mr. Ron Young. They're going to share some information regarding the DeBerry property.
Good evening, Chair Haynes, school board members, Dr. Balgobin, Superintendent. I'm Patty Kaur, the Chief Operating Officer, and I am joined with Ron Young, our Director for Design and Construction and Business and Planning for Volusia County Schools. What you have here at 1701 tonight is we have received from a person or a company who is interested in purchasing the property that we own on Buckley Drive in DeBerry, and because we received an unsolicited, meaning we didn't put it out there, we didn't put it on the street, it came to us, we do have to present it to you. That is our obligation. And so I'll, at this time, turn it over to Mr. Young that can speak about that.
So the reason that we are interested in entertaining selling Buckley is because of the cost that it would take, the monies that it would take to develop the site. We've had many community meetings. We've met with the city several times, and I'll just lay out some of our concerns. The traffic for Buckley. Buckley is off of a 4-lane road that is heavily traveled and experiences many traffic backups in the morning. An early estimate for off-site improvements for that Buckley site by DOT was $10.2 to $15 million for off-site improvements. Like I said, that property is fronted by 4-lane traffic, 50 miles an hour. There's a rail station. So turn lanes would have to be added, sidewalks for 2 miles in every direction. The city has shown us a Google-type image with yellow lines on it that represent egress paths. These lines are drawn through environmentally sensitive areas, and we have met with the county about that image, and we were told that this will not happen. Stormwater, the site, the water table is about 12 inches below the surface on Buckley. We would have to dewater the site over 22 to 24 acres. And after dewatering, we would have to demuck the site, removing an average of 3 feet of muck and dirt, sand across the 22 to 24 acres. And then we would have to backfill that 3 feet. But on top of that, because of SREF and statute and Florida Building Code that we have to follow that other people don't necessarily have to follow, we have to build that site up to 1 foot above the crown of the road. So we would have to bring in thousands of truckloads of cubic yards of dirt, an average of 12 feet across the 22 to 24 acres. At a cost of about $20 million for us to get ready to come out of the ground with a school. That's no construction, that's just to get the site ready. The Spring Vista site, the water table is about 15 feet below the surface. We also received, after reviewing the site with the Department of Education, we received a letter from the Department of Education rejecting the site because the site does not comply with 101333 or the interlocal agreement that says that we will build sites adjacent to neighborhoods. And they cited a lot of the problems with the site itself.
Okay, Mr. Cologne has a question.
So I appreciate the presentation, and I think that we are still in good faith negotiations with the city. And so given this some thought, again, the property's not for sale. This is just someone who sent us an offer for the property. I will share with you that at least me personally, for this was an investment. We knew that we had the option to purchase a property that was worth more than the cost that we were paying for it, not to mention there is limited land in DeBerry. We know this. So what we have right now, as you can see by the offers that we're getting, are, we're not selling it for $5 million. It's not for sale. That's just a number that we arbitrarily got. And I will share with you that I was very clear with the city manager personally, where I let him know that. Now, with that being said, We received this offer, and I think we have three choices. We can accept it, we can reject it, or we can allow it to expire. And I am of the opinion that we should just simply allow it to expire so that we're not saying yes or no, and we'll continue our good faith negotiation with the city of DeBerry as we move forward. Again, I think there's an opportunity to continue to work through the mitigating costs and try to come to a conclusion on which site is better or not, or what will it take. I don't believe that we've gotten there yet with the council members. And so that's my suggestion, that we take no action and simply allow it to expire. It expires sometime in March, and that way we're not going to ruin our good faith negotiations as we move forward, because I think everybody agrees that we need a school in DeBerry. And so that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Brosmer.
I like that idea. I have a few thoughts, and they have more to do with the property itself and what to do with it, as opposed to comparing it to any other site or anything like that. My thought was, because of its location and its proximity to future development, the DeBerry downtown project, that the likelihood for appreciation for this property is significant. And so we don't really have any good reason to rush into making a decision about what to do with it. At least I'm not aware of one. And I was also thinking of the fact that we learned since the real estate crash in 2008 that there's a big difference between appraisal, sometimes a big difference between appraised value and market value. And before we were to make any decision about what to do with the property, I'd want to know what the market value is in addition to the appraised value. So I would hope that we would do both analyses, I guess, before we made any decision. I do like the idea of letting this expire, also because I prefer for us to, at whatever point we decide to do something with this property, I would rather we were the ones to surplus it and to request bids and what have you. I understand that developers may approach us, but that doesn't mean that we have to take what they offer. I would rather that we took the lead. But before we do anything, I really would like to kind of default back to something that we raised, I don't know, a meeting or two back, and that is to look at the district as a whole, and get an idea of where the growth numbers are, because right now I don't know. Our student population hasn't necessarily grown, but I think its location has changed. The areas that are growing are different than they had been over time. So I'd like for us to do that before we make a decision on the property too, and that also means that the offer would expire. So with all of those things considered, I like your suggestion.
Ms. Goodrich.
Ms. Core, is there anything that would stop us if we continue to sit on this property from looking at other areas, not necessarily, sorry to say, in DeBerry, but in other surrounding areas that we could build in if we just continue to hold this property?
No.
Okay.
Nothing would stop us.
All right, it's my turn. So I want to clear up some misinformation of what was stated this evening. So first of all, we have had public meetings with the parents in DeBerry, and even this past week, we met on Tuesday night at Enterprise Elementary and invited all the parents that live in DeBerry to attend that meeting. Then on Wednesday night, we held a meeting at DeBerry Elementary, and we invited parents. And then since then, the parents that came to those two meetings have been sharing with parents that did not come to the meetings, and or I've been receiving quite a few emails. And yesterday, I spent my day talking to parents on the telephone and explaining to them what was happening. But on February 6th, we finally had a meeting where the city manager of DeBerry finally came to a meeting for the first time and actually brought documentation of things that he had been stating. And I don't know for sure, but I know that you guys have been meeting with them about all of the, like, properties in Volusia County right now that we currently own, whether we own them in Deltona or New Smyrna or Ormond. And I think you were going to share this, with them, along with some information about what the 264-page engineering report, said about this property. Here's my thing about the property. All this did, and I said this at the last board meeting, is it opens it up that they can start looking at negotiating offers. It doesn't mean it's being sold. It doesn't mean it's going, I would absolutely not sell it to the people that submitted an unsolicited, because why wouldn't you look for other offers to see? But what we're up against is, we're up against the half-cent sales tax, and Enterprise is one of the projects on the half-cent sales tax. And we have to spend it within the time frame that is there. So it's not like you can wait till the night before it's going to expire and go, okay, we're now finally going to build the school that is needed. Let me stress, there is not a single city in Volusia County, including the city of Pearson. The city of Pearson, that only has how many residents, has an elementary school and a middle high school combo. De Leon Springs is unincorporated Volusia. It's not a city. It does have an elementary school, but there's a plan even for that area of what we're looking at. But I also want to state, in my meeting with them, and I'm assuming they shared the same information with all of you, we've got other areas right now that are growing and developments are coming into, especially down on the southeast end, up on the northeast end. And we already have developers that have set aside property because of the number of homes they're building so that we can build schools in those communities. I would say if any one of you were right now a parent and you were sitting in DeBerry and only a portion of the DeBerry elementary students stay in DeBerry and everyone else is bussed out and all middle is bussed out and all high school is bussed out, you would be wanting a school in DeBerry. That's why we proposed a K-8. The families in DeBerry, which we've heard from by holding these meetings and listening to them, they want a school in DeBerry. They want, and they would love to have a K-8. They actually, and Ms. Core was going to go back and look at it, they'd like all the middle school, they'd like all the elementary kids to be in DeBerry and stay in their community, and they would really like all the middle school kids to come back. At this time, that's not the plan. We're bringing about half of them back. But where we're at this point, a minimum of $20 additional million on our part, and what we were given to look at, and I asked this question repeatedly, do you have in writing that you have permission to do this? No. Do you have in writing that you have permission to do this? No. Do you have in writing that you have permission to do this? No. Do you have in writing from the Department of Transportation that they will reduce the speed limit to 35 on 1792? No. So everything we were finally given for the first time at the February 6th meeting is all hypothetical. None of it. And just to do the parts that after they sat there and explained what the engineering reports came back with, we don't have an additional $20 million to put into this project, nor do we have the additional 2 years it could possibly take to get all the permits done in order to build it. Here and now, we have students that we have run out of seats for in that community. We are busing north into Orange City, and we're busing east into Enterprise. We're busing every middle school kid out, and we're busing every high school kid out. And I will tell you right now, that wouldn't fly in any other community. And it would have never reached this point in any other community. Because when we've got developers already setting aside land for homes that may not be built until 8 years from now, and we don't have anything here. The traffic study that was presented that night, our traffic study for the Spring Vista site showed less traffic than what the city approved a traffic study for 3 years ago. And the attorney representing us asked, why did you approve a traffic study, but you just keep talking about us causing traffic, but our traffic study is less than the one that you approved 3 years ago. Finally, at the end of the meeting, what we learned was that traffic study was approved with the idea they would put fast food restaurants, and it would just be constant traffic all day. So that's why it would be higher than our school traffic. Our school traffic would just be first thing in the morning and one time in the afternoon. We heard from someone who owns a business there who said, "You'll impact my business negatively." Their business isn't on the street outside of that school, either of the main streets, and their business doesn't open until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to be honest to the parents, because if we can't build on an appropriate piece of property in DeBerry, with the costs that we have set aside to build, because we already know what's happened with what the costs have gone up, then our only options are to move back north into Orange City and find another piece of property, or move east into Deltona. I will tell you right now, this is what I've already heard from parents. Some parents have already bought their home, found out their kids would be bussed out, and put their house back on the market for sale because they thought their kids would stay in the community. Look, we just brought all the Turie T. kids back to their community. That's what we've been trying to do. What I've heard from parents is, you go forward with this and you don't build us a school in DeBerry. One, we're either moving out of DeBerry, or two, we will put our child in private, charter, or virtual school. That's the point we're to. So I don't understand, and I don't understand people that have gotten themselves involved in this that don't live in DeBerry, know nothing about DeBerry, aren't raising their families in DeBerry, that think they know what's best for DeBerry. Because I would never think that I would know what's best for a community that one of you represent and where you live. I would believe you would know what's best for your community. My stance on this tonight is, this is not a sale to the Falcone Group. This is an opportunity for them to start looking at who we could sell the property to. And I'm going to answer the questions you wrote on your card tonight, Mrs. Root. The money that was used was the money that we have set aside to purchase property. If this is sold, it's going straight back into the property purchasing budget, and we will need to have this money if we can't build on this property, which at this point I don't see any way of how to, because we have a 4-page letter from the Department of Education that says it doesn't meet any of the requirements, okay? So we will put that back in, because we're going to have to buy a piece of property somewhere to place these children. We have to do it before the sales tax runs out. It can't be at midnight, the night before it runs out. The school has to be built in a timely manner and within that framework. And so I personally am in favor of moving forward with this, because we're going to need this money to buy a piece of property to build the school. Ms. Brosmer?
Maybe I misunderstood the agenda item. I thought it was, as I said in my initial comment, I'm not looking at this as in reference to a comparison of any properties. I'm only looking at this as a standalone issue. And it's my understanding from the question that was asked earlier that there's nothing with regard to this decision that stops the board from looking for other sites and negotiating on other sites and all of that. So I'm trying to figure out exactly, I don't contest anything you said. I'm just trying to figure out how it relates directly to our decision tonight. And I will say I don't know the impact of the half-cent issue. So maybe you can elaborate on that. But my instinct, just from a real estate standpoint, is that this is an asset. And so we have the opportunity to do other evaluations about the overall county and where we need growth, we've asked for that before anyway. While we look for a better offer or offer it for sale, do our own evaluations about its value and things like that. So I'm just trying to separate out the question of a school in DeBerry from the decision that's before us tonight, as I understand it.
You want to explain?
Well, I guess I can maybe put it in the form of a question. What is our direction? Is our direction that the board would surplus the property and we would go out and do a market study and an appraisal? Or are we just letting this expire with no action?
We haven't voted on that.
Correct.
So that's what we're seeking tonight. The recommended action is to respond to the unsolicited letter. We did receive one, and there normally would be a response. I know there's talk of not responding at all and just letting it expire. That's a board decision. And then any other offers, because since we've gotten that one, we have received others. And for us to be able to, it says commence negotiations to sell, meaning that we wouldn't go get an appraisal and a market study. It costs a lot of money. If you're not surplusing it, there's no need for us to do that at this time.
All right, Ms. Goodrich.
So if we do open it up to other people to bid on it during this time, could you guys come back to us in the next couple of meetings and give us ideas of other places that we could build? Because we do have the house sales tax issue that we're up against. And there are, I know you mentioned a few cities, but the school is named Enterprise. And Enterprise is nearby as well that has lots of land available. So could you guys come back with some ideas that we could look at? And then in the meantime, if this was to go forward, we'd have other bids to look at. And while I do agree real estate hopefully does appreciate, I'm a little biased in that, but I don't think we can just sit on property, because we would always sit on property based on that. If this dollar amount is specific to be used for this building of a school, we have to look at this dollar amount.
Thank you for saying that, because I was going to mention too that once we surplus property, if there's property we know, and we've shared with you guys between last week and today with the board, that list of properties we do have vacant property that we're holding for future growth because we know growth is coming. We have that. We have surplus property that the board, and some was surplus 20 years ago, or one property in particular was surplused in 2019. We had a buyer, COVID hit, they pulled out, and it hasn't sold yet. Surplus property that is on our books is a liability to the district. One of our properties, we had to go in and clean out. There were some issues happening there. So if we know it's not in our interest and we're not going to build on it because the population has moved, and we can certainly share that, it is in the district's best interest to release and sell that property. I'm talking specifically about the property we've already surplused. Anything we carry that we're not going to use can become a liability.
But just to clarify on my question, if we do put it out for others to bid on it, we do not have to accept a bid, correct?
We would surplus the property, do an appraisal and a market study. We would not put the property on our site for sale until the board acts. Okay, but and that action could be that you direct us to put it up for sale to the public.
No.
Her
My question is, if we let's say got 5 offers on it, and we don't like any of the offers, we do not have to accept the offer, correct?
Correct. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
That's correct.
Because ultimately, we still have to approve the sale of it.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, Ms. Thompson.
Love everything that was said there, and I agree. I just, once again on the record, we cannot build a school on this site. The DOE has said for multiple reasons we cannot build a school on this site, correct? Okay, and can we bring back like the different property ideas because I think all of us yield to one another when it comes to our different districts because we live there, we're around the people constantly, we see what's going on. And so I do like to do this in this case, and you do live in DeBerry, so I do, you talk to the people that are around there, the parents, the teachers, people in the grocery store. And I hear you loud and clear that there needs to be another school in DeBerry. So if we could get the different ideas brought forward alongside all of this of where we could put a school, and kind of what the options are if we cannot build a school on this property.
Would you like for us to workshop it?
Absolutely. Mr. Cologne?
And so, again, we're still in good faith negotiation with the city. And I would hate that this would send a message that we are, I think having the opportunity to share this information with the council members, which has not happened, having the opportunity to ensure that we're all on the same page. This has all been done via proxy. And so ensuring that everybody's on the same page, I do agree with you. Let's let it run the normal process where we surplus the land, figure it out. But to your point, this is not about any other property. This is about an offer we received tonight. And I don't necessarily want to say yay. I don't want to say nay, because that also sends a message. Saying no sends a message. Which I don't think we're prepared to send. And so with that being said, I'll make a motion that we not respond to this and continue to explore the options as have been discussed tonight. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Did you hear everybody?
2 to 1, 2 to 3.
So we had 2 ayes and 3 nays. I'm a nay. All right, not moving forward with the possibility of surplusing this property is what's got parents in DeBerry confused. Because they have people telling them, no, it can be built on. And even though we have now gone back out to schools and held meetings, and we have shared the DOE letter, we have shared the results of the engineering report and everything, they now realize that we can't build on this piece of property. And even if we had $20 to $30 million and had 2 years to clean up the property and prepare it, it still won't meet the DOE requirements to build there based on the 4-page letter that we received from the Department of Education Facilities, which they sent people to DeBerry to evaluate the properties. This was not done by us. This wasn't done by Patty and any of her team. Even the engineering report that's 264 pages done was done by an outside engineering group. So we've already hired all these people to do this analysis. And so my nay was, because as long as we're holding it, there's this thought that we can miraculously wave a wand and have the money, have the time, and get DOE to change their mind and build on this property. And my understanding is DOE is not going to change their mind. And we have different codes that we have to follow. Ms. Brosmer?
I don't contest any of that. The only distinction I would make is that I'm not sure that by not deciding tonight to surplus it, we are telling DeBerry that we're still trying to build on it. I don't see it that way at all. I see it that the district will continue to talk with DeBerry, but the district has also already told DeBerry that this property is not going to ever have a school on it. So in my mind, that's decided. And so all we're trying to figure out now is the timing of what to do with this one. And that's why my thought is, I like the idea of just letting this offer go away if the timing works. And we're not talking about holding on to it for years. We're talking about weeks or months, I would assume, while we figure out what we want to do. I just prefer it to be district-driven rather than developer-driven. And if we don't have extraneous pressures on us, and I don't know that we do, then I don't see the point of pushing this tonight. We talked about surplusing it. I'm completely okay with that. I like, and I would want the analyses done, and I like the idea of getting multiple offers, because I believe that it's in a location that would draw multiple offers. But I don't think any of this has to take years to happen. And so I don't want to give the impression that we're trying to string this out for some prolonged period. And it's not with the idea of dangling it as we might build a school here, because it's my understanding that that's not going to happen. So if if my understandings are correct, I'm not sure why we have to make a decision tonight. I'm just trying to figure out what the rush is.
There's not necessarily a rush. It's the fact that we did receive this, I believe, back in December, and we've held it.
November, I think.
When?
Oh, I'm sorry. We had this on an agenda and it got pushed already.
Right,
So.
and it got pushed already. I do believe that when you receive something from someone, even if you want it to expire, you should have communication with them.
Okay.
I think it's rude to not respond in some way, but I go back to, which is exactly what I said at the last board meeting, it's to be able to respond to the people that submitted this and to respond to any other offers unsolicited offers that have already been received, and commence negotiations on the property with people that are interested in purchasing it. Because, as we stated even in the February 6th meeting we were in with the city manager, other people don't have to follow the same codes that we have to follow to build. The other thing is, when we're building, whatever the cost is, and University High is a good example from years ago. The cost was supposed to be this, the cost became this. We have to spend whatever is needed, and the cost relies on us. We don't recoup it. If someone else buys this and they're going to do something else with it that's not under school codes, they can roll into their price of what they're going to sell to people, rent to people, whatever, the cost of what it takes them to prepare the property, and they don't even have the same codes or guidelines we have to follow. This right now, even if we were to approve this tonight for them to move forward and possibly say to the people that submitted the unsolicited, we're not going to accept your unsolicited, but in the meantime, we're going to put this out and we're going to select other offers. You're more than welcome to make another offer on it, just as well as anyone else is. This process is not going to be a short process. It could take 6 months to a year to even sell it. But we don't even, we will have to move forward with property somewhere else to build at that point. But every time we drag this out, and we still are the ones that have to vote whether or not we're selling it and who we're selling it to, we are just extending the timeline that it's going to take them to do the pieces in order to move forward. When you work with the school system, nothing is simple and nothing sells in 30 days. It's not like when you put up your house and 48 hours later you have an offer and you sell it. That doesn't happen in the school system. It does it, Dr. Evans? So that's why I'm not for continuing to push this down the road. I do think we owe the people that submitted it a response, and I think we owe them the opportunity to figure out what they're going to do with it, because they tell us what we have to do and the time frame we have to do it in. And I have stood in front of these parents already and apologized to them because I had no idea we would be at this point and we wouldn't have already cleared land and started building a place for their kids. Ms. Goodrich?
I just want to be clear that my nay was not to say that we're going to necessarily accept an offer. And that's why I asked the questions I asked, is let's see what's out there. If it's property that we can't use, it's creating a liability for us, let's see what's out there. If there's an offer that makes sense, fantastic. If there's not, we don't have to go with it. So it's not causing us harm to open it up. And if in the meantime we get a great offer that gives us a better opportunity financially, then I think that's being financially responsible.
Mr. Clone?
How many pieces of property are left in DeBerry right now that are this size?
This is the last one, I mean, Spring Vista is the last one to build on.
So I would much rather put it for sale for whatever it's worth than that everybody can bid on it for the highest bidder than to entertain one offer without, what's that?
Did you read what they posted under the background?
Yeah.
Okay.
Than to entertain responding to one offer to start negotiations. If we want to sell it, then we'll figure out what the price is and we'll put it up for sale and whoever wants to bid will bid. And so, again, that's following the traditional and, I think to be honest with you, I'd call the vote because I think it didn't go one way and I'm okay with that. And so if the idea is that we're going to go ahead and then make a motion and so I'll call the vote.
Ms. Brosmer?
Could we time this, based on what you've explained about the surplus process, and that it takes some time to go through that process? Could we do that in conjunction with a workshop that gives us an overview of the district and just kind of tells everybody where the growth is, where our properties are, and all of that in this same time frame? While this property is being addressed, could we also have that?
Okay, I need some clarification. I'm going to do a recommendation and let's vote. Can we do that for this property? Because I do know that you're asking for a workshop where our team they're giving some time to go out and look at what's available there, come back and present, and where the growth is occurring. We want that, right?
Right, sort of the overview of the whole district.
Okay, so Celeste, if you can make a notation, we're gonna have a workshop on that. What are we trying to do here? I know we had a vote before and
So
it was 3-2.
there's one piece she just said.
Okay.
So when they met with you, because they met with me, did they go over all of the properties with you?
Ms. Core?
Oh, we didn't really have time to get to all of them because we ran out of time, but they did give me a lot of information. And what I said at the time was, I hope this doesn't take the place of a workshop because I was hoping that we would have a broader discussion.
Based on some legislation right now, there's one part of what you asked for in a workshop that we can't do.
And what part is that?
We can come into a workshop and we can talk about where the growth is. We can talk about where communities are setting aside property for us to build schools on because they're building homes. We can talk about the property that's already been surplused that is up for sale. We can't talk about pieces of property that we own right now that are being held for growth coming up, because we could have outside groups move forward to take over those properties to put their own schools there.
Okay, I confess I don't totally understand that, but I'm okay with you leaving out anything you're not supposed to say. I just would like to have a broader understanding of kind of where we are and where the growth is. We've talked about some of those areas in these meetings, but I was just looking for sort of a district-wide description, and surplusing this property, in my mind, is related but isn't the same.
All right, so, Ms. Goodrich.
So if we make a motion to surplus the property, that is just saying we're going to sell it and we can put it out for bid, correct? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to surplus this property.
I will second that motion.
Okay, Mrs. Goodrich, Ms. Thompson, any other questions?
I do have a question.
Okay, Mr. Cologne?
What is the normal process that is taken before we decide to surplus a property? Because that wasn't on the agenda tonight, and that's not how this was listed. So we're going to take an action that has not been published, that has not been shared, that has not been, are we allowed to do that?
I would think you would need to have it on the board agenda. Actually agrees to.
Okay, I think what the motion needs to be is, the motion is, staff has requested approval to respond to the unsolicited offer and any other unsolicited offers received and commence negotiations to sell the property. That's what it says on the board doc tonight. So we would be making a motion based on what the superintendent's recommended and the staff has recommended.
And then my question is, how do you all, what do you all do before you bring a surplus to us? And has that been done on this property?
Do what you just said, you would have to vote to surplus the property. And what we would like is, if we're going to do this, if that's your vote, we would like a vote to surplus the property, and then we will go do the market study and the two appraisals. And
Then
then
we
we
would put it
could,
for sale.
to your point, we could bring that back at the workshop.
And then we can put it for sale for whatever we know it's worth, either speculatively or
We're good? When would you like that workshop?
I think the confusion is that the word surplus isn't in the recommended action. But that is what this intent is. To commence negotiations to sell the property is to surplus the property to sell the property. And the word surplus is not there. So if it's a semantics issue for the board, we can bring it back with the actual word surplus in there.
but we still have
So-
to make a decision on what we're going to do with this offer.
So, well, no, it says in here, staff is requesting approval to respond to the unsolicited offer. So my understanding is, I think we're all in agreement that they'll respond to the unsolicited offer, that we're not accepting the unsolicited
That
offer.
would have to be a motion.
Okay. Along with any other unsolicited offers received, they would respond to those, and then they would commence negotiations to sell the property. So, Ms. Goodrich, would you like to
Surplus the property.
restate your motion using the language that's here and not use the word surplus?
I'd like to amend my motion,
Thank you.
and I'd like to make a motion to go with what's written.
All right,
I will once again second that motion.
all right. Any other questions?
I won't be supporting this motion because I think we're still in good faith negotiations with the city, and I think that's going to hinder that.
Mm-hmm.
Without the word surplus.
Dr. Balgman, that's your recommended motion?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So,
And seconded by Ms. Thompson.
all right, we're going to call for a vote if there's no other questions. All those in favor of approving to allow staff to respond to the unsolicited offer and any other unsolicited offers received and commence negotiations to sell the property, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Say nay.
Nay.
Did you get everybody? Okay. All right, then we're moving on now to item 17.02.
May I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
When would the board like a workshop? And I know you guys would need a few weeks. So let's decide so I can get that.
So the next workshop is 2 weeks from now, but I believe there's already things on for that workshop.
And it's a short time frame.
Okay, but I don't know that they can have everything ready in 2 weeks. So that would mean they would need to come to the first April workshop,
April 8th.
April 8th.
Okay, thank you, Celeste.
All right, we're moving on to item 17.02, Bedford, Freeman, and Worth, purchase of adoption of high school instructional materials. And I see they're coming forward already.
Thank you. So we have Dr. Desiree Rubinski. And Dr. Rubinski, you have 17.06. And Ms. Taylor, okay, and we also have Ms. Taylor, so they were going to be presenting from 17.02 through 17.06.
Yes.
That is correct. All right, good evening, Chairwoman Haynes, Dr. Balgobin, and school board members. We are here today to follow up with our December 10th presentation on the adoption of science instructional materials. So we presented the selections from our committees. Remember that all of our committees were composed of teachers and parents. And so these are follow-ups to, with the publishers, with an agreement and the quote and contract for purchase. So we're asking for each of these publishers for approval to adopt and to purchase the materials. So we'll start with the first one, which is 17.02. This is Bedford, Freeman, and Worth. We are asking for the purchase of just environmental science, AP environmental science. So this is a small purchase based on student enrollment for that specific course. So this includes digital and print materials.
Thank you. Dr. Balgobin, you have a recommendation?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair and board members. I would like to recommend the approval of the purchase of adoption of Bedford, Freeman, and Worth High School instructional materials.
Board members, you've heard the recommendation of the superintendent, who would like to make a motion to purchase the Bedford, Freeman, and Worth materials for environmental science.
I have a question.
Hmm?
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question? Okay, Mr.
Are
Maloney.
these materials in the state approved list? Or
Yes, they are.
exempt?
Actually, the AP does not have state-approved materials. They are in alignment with the College Board.
Wonderful. All right, and that was my only question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So does that cover all of the materials you're going to be speaking about?
So all the materials, if AP materials, that applies to AP materials, all of the general courses, they are all on the state-approved list, correct?
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, then do I have someone that would make a motion to approve the purchase for the environmental science?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Thank you, Mr. Cologne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. We're now on to 17.03.
17.03 is a request for adoption and purchase of Discovery Education, which these materials are for kindergarten through 8th grade, and they will be both print and digital materials.
Okay. Dr. Balgobin, your recommendation?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. I recommend approval of the purchase and adoption of Discovery Education Elementary grades K through 5 and middle school science, print, and digital instructional materials.
Any discussion? That's not for, oh, hold on, there's a card coming. Oh, okay, all right. So, any discussion on the purchase for the Discovery science materials for K through 5 and middle school? All right, then I need someone to make a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brosmer. All right, hearing no comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the Discovery Education purchase and adoption for elementary K through 5 and middle school science instructional materials, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's 5-0. We're moving on to 17.04.
17.04 is for the purchase and adoption of McGraw-Hill materials for high school to include anatomy and physiology, biology, physics, physical science, marine science, AP biology, and AP chemistry.
Dr. Bachman, you have a recommendation?
Yes, Madam Chair, I recommend approval of the purchase and adoption of McGraw-Hill LLC High School Science Print and Digital Instructional Materials.
Thank you. Board members, any discussion? Okay, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of...
I'd like to make a motion.
Huh?
Motion
Need
to
a
approve.
motion? Sorry. Need a motion. Yes, all right, a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Goodrich. Thank you, Mr. Cologne. All those in favor of approving the purchase of the McGraw-Hill High School Science instructional materials for all of the subjects they mentioned, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's 5-0. We're now on to 17.05.
17.05 is for the purchase and adoption of National Geographic Learning Cengage materials. These materials are for high school earth space for AP Physics 1, AP Physics 2, and AP Physics C.
Dr. Balgobin?
I recommend approval of the purchase and adoption of National Geographic Learning Cengage High School Science Print and Digital Materials.
All right. Any questions, discussion? Okay, who'd like to make the motion?
I motion to approve.
Okay, Mrs. Thompson, second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brosmer. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the National Geographic Learning Cengage purchase and adoption of high school science instructional materials for, I got part of them down, but basically one of the gen ed classes and the rest of the AP classes.
Correct.
Correct? Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes 5-0. We are moving on to 17.06.
17.06 is for the purchase and adoption of Savas Learning Company for the purchase of high school chemistry and high school environmental science for both print and digital materials.
Thank you, Dr. Balgobin.
Madam Chair, I recommend approval of the purchase and adoption of Savas Learning Company LLC, high school science, print, and digital instructional materials.
All right, any discussion? Who'd like to make the motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Clone. Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Yeah, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the purchase of the Savas Learning Company LLC for high school science instruction materials for chemistry and high school environmental science, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes 5-0. We are now at 18.01.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We have one public comment. So, Mrs. Albert, please come forward.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Balgobin. Just a point of clarification, if I could. So that was a very interesting conversation and discussion that occurred around the property. But just to follow Robert's Rules of Order, just so everybody is, making sure we're dotting all those i's and crossing those t's, when a motion is amended, the second occurs on the amendment. There is a separate vote to accept the amendment, and then another motion and second is made on the new motion. So, we're not sleeping back there, so wanted you to know. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We are now up to item 19. Who would like to go first? Ms. Brosmer?
Some of what I had in my notes for tonight has already been covered, so I only have one idea I would like to float, and I need to say that I was planning to say this before the governor made his announcement about creating a DOGE committee in Florida. This is not related to that. But I've talked with, this has been on my mind for some time in general, and I've talked with a number of corporate and business owners, and one of the things that keeps coming back to me for government budgets is that it's characteristic or normal for our budgets to build on themselves. And it seems to me that it would be a good exercise for us maybe once a year or every couple of years to do a zero-based budget and figure out exactly what we need and where we need it, rather than just always building on the same structure and the same allotments or allocations. I know that money is moved around. I don't mean to suggest that those changes aren't made. But one of the major businesses I spoke with just this week was telling me that they have to do one every month. That's overkill, and I would never ask us to do that. But I like the idea of doing it as an exercise, because I think it gives us a better understanding of where our money goes and where we need it the most. One of the problems we always had with categoricals was that we were assigned a certain amount of money and we couldn't move it to where we needed it, even if we had too much in a certain category. In my mind, it's just a good analysis, a good exercise. So I just wanted to float that as a thought. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Cologne?
I have nothing. Have a good night.
Ms. Goodrich?
I just want to remind everyone, we still need volunteers for the Special Olympics at Mainland on April 1st, and to come join us at the State of the Schools this week.
Ms. Thompson?
I hate to be this person, but at the last board meeting, we did discuss that we were going to formulate a legislative agenda for March.
Yes.
So if we can get some ideas on the table, even if it's rough ideas, just to get it out there, because March is coming up, and I think we should talk about that. And can I just throw a couple things out there, and just as a starting
That was what I was
point?
going to say. We're not leaving because we
I know, I
said we
hate
were
to be
going
the person. I
do
hope
this.
we can do this in a timely fashion. But one of my things that I would like to see us ask for, our base student allocation has crawled upward. The cost of living has skyrocketed. And I really think that we need people to understand that the BSA has to increase at least by 5% for us to have a fighting chance to. I know, we're dreaming big here. And that leaves room for negotiation. But what's it been at, like 2%? Is that correct?
0.3, I think, something like that.
Yeah, so I just feel like we need to at least ask, because if you don't ask for something, you're not going to get it. So I say we do that. And on that note, somehow moving some funding toward our paraprofessionals. I know that there are a lot of people that can ask for money, and everyone needs more money, and I understand that. I'm not saying that. I feel like that's a group that sometimes gets overlooked, and they do have very, very difficult jobs. A lot of people have very difficult jobs, but that's kind of a focus. Also, I'm apparently just asking for money in Tallahassee because for HB 1473, there have been a lot of things that we have to do and a lot of things that our schools need. And as we know, there hasn't been funding for it. I mean, in an ideal world, we would have, video cameras all over the place, and we would have these locks and these keys and these scanning cards for all of our schools, and we don't. And I know what our staff is going through to make it work, and they're doing a phenomenal job, and safety and security is doing a fantastic job. But I just think if the state's going to ask us to fulfill these requirements, that there should be some money that follows it. And even if we can come up with a list of how much we would guesstimate we would need just to give them a starting point, or just kind of give them numbers so they understand what we are going through and what our schools are going through. So yeah, that will be my starting off point for my ask, just small asks.
All right. So I have some similar asks to you. Of course, yes, I'm on board because we still have to deal with the compression issue for our employees. So I think, they get tired of hearing it, but they need to realize that that is what we're facing. And even though, as I said, kudos to whoever came up with retention and the longevity supplements, because at least they go into the retirement account. I appreciate that. But I think we need to, once again, ask for the funding or the flexibility to deal with the compression issue that we are still facing with a lot of our employees when we went from 39 to, and we're almost to 50,000 with teachers, and we've taken bus drivers now to 21, when they were at, I think, 10-something. Paraprofessionals were at $8 or $9, and we went to 15. And when I say these numbers, it's for the starting salaries. Like, that's where we bounced up to for starting salaries, but then it compressed the people that were higher. So I think that is still a focus for me. House Bill 1473 was another one that I had on my plate because we got some additional information the other day. And so, you think when the rules come out on a piece of legislation, everybody knows how to follow the rules. But it's kind of like they interpret it on their own. Like, we interpret it one day one way, and I appreciate our captain because he errs on the side of caution, which I think that's the side of, where we should be. And some other counties, as I've talked to them, they didn't see it the same way. But we do know that there is a piece of legislation out there, and I thought it was laid out very nicely. It's being worked on. I'm hoping that it will go through, but it's basically breaking down the safety and security into 4 different pillars. And the one thing that I talked to them about the other day was this whole locking double doors and then locking classroom doors inside of that, because we have some schools that they're all fenced. All of our schools are fenced. We all have a single point of entry, but we know at some schools, kids can come through the single point of entry and they can go down and knock right on their classroom door and be let in. It's easy for the teacher to know. But then we've got situations where they come through the front office and they have to go to a set of double doors where there's nobody at, knocking on a set of double doors where nobody's hearing them knock to get into that part, then go on to the classrooms that are locked. And one of the things I've brought up repeatedly is, are you going to give us the money for the manpower of somebody to sit at those double doors and open them? Or is that overkill because why can't they walk into the building and go and knock on the door just like everyone else is that has outside doors? So that's one thing they are seriously looking at that, and my understanding is the reason why some of them are parents and they went out to schools and then they found out what it was like when they were on a campus. And there's a big discussion about the nighttime activities because we are following the same thing for all the after school and nighttime activities, but not every other district is. So they need to decide where's the money coming from, because now you're extending your guardians and your sheriff's deputies and all that to be at nighttime events. And none of that money was built into our budget to cover those pieces. It's one of those pieces of legislation that comes out that's partially funded, barely funded, unfunded. And a few other things. Last year when we went up there, we talked about the school counselors and how we were struggling with getting the school counselors because you have to have your master's degree to become a school counselor, but yet they needed hours to be able to shadow somebody else or do the work in order to get to that piece. And so it's difficult because you just can't have a bachelor's and meet the DOE requirements. So one of the things we asked last year was for them to give some flexibility. And if a teacher's got the bachelor's degree and they're working on their master's, can we bring them in as like an intermediate, like school counselor, so they're getting their hours so that they can go ahead and earn their master's and then become a full-fledged school counselor for us, because that is a shortage area that we have also. And I think personally we need to ask for the same thing for ESE. And we're not the only district that is suffering right now with ESE. I think every district you talk to in Florida, unless they're a very tiny district, they are suffering with the ESE piece and the ESE requirements. And I remember when at one time, ESE teachers years ago, if you had your degree in exceptional student education, that opened up, you could teach K through 12. Then the state changed it, and the state came back and said, oh no, if you're in elementary school, you now have to also get an elementary degree. And you have to take all these reading courses. So your ESE degree, so now you're going to teach the ESE kids, and you have to have additional degrees to teach the ESE kids. Or if you were teaching math at the high school, and you had your ESE degree, and you were teaching students that needed that support, you now had to go get a degree in mathematics also. And that's why we lost, I'll be honest with you, some people out of ESE, because the state just kept requiring more and more. So that's another area. I just think they've got to take a look at it, because the teachers that are having to give the most intensive teaching and practice, and especially if you have, let's just say somebody only has 3 grade levels that they're doing, kindergarten, first and second. I'm telling you right now, that's 3 different sets of curriculum. That's 3 different sets of needs that children have to have. And we need to take that into account, because otherwise I'm not sure we're going to find the ESE teachers that we need. And so, as I said, ESE and school counselors, I think, are still something they need to take a look at. I am hearing some positive things about the teacher certification, that we're finally going to move from 5 years to 10 years, it's looking like, if it passes. I'm a proponent of that, because when you go and talk to other people in other fields, a lot of them have a 10-year renewal of their certificate before they have to go take tests or additional coursework. And that's all hinging on, unless some new piece of equipment comes up, like even in the medical field. But if we could move to a 10-year certification period once teachers have started and got their initial certification, I think that would also be helpful, instead of tying them up, having to take all the, earn 120 points, and oh wait, you've got to have this many points in this and this many hours in this before you can renew. And so that is one thing that I am positive about. And I have heard some positive things about possibly that EOC test that is holding students back from graduating. That's why I went up there and fought last year not to take the other concordant scores away for SAT and ACT and all of that. But there is talk that maybe they're going to move forward with Algebra 1, and you will still have to pass your Algebra 1 class, which, along with the assessments given in your Algebra 1 class, but that your whole diploma won't hang on this one separate test sitting out here. And if we can help get that across the finish line, because we know the numbers of kids that we are still holding back and keeping from being able to go into the military and choose other paths because of a standalone end of course exam. And so I was excited to hear that.
That's ELA.
And also ELA. I'm just excited about the Algebra 1 because that's the one that has stopped most of them. And having been an Algebra 1 teacher, if they passed my class, they should have earned their diploma and not had to go sit for a separate test that I'm not sure all of our legislators could pass. That's my thought on that. So those are the things that I'm looking at, and I don't mind condensing them down, but that's what I'm also tracking that is happening up there right now. Ms. Brosmeyer.
Just to comment on your observations about the ESE certifications and the complications that have arisen, it strikes me that it would be really good if we weren't the only county advocating for changes there. If there are other counties, it may not be across the board an FSBA legislative priority, but there might be other counties that would kind of join with us and advocate in the same direction. And you can even work on language that you think would be useful. I don't know to what extent that's legislation and where it's a DOE rule or policy or something like that. Both of those probably would have to be addressed, but it sounds like something that other counties might support as well.
I agree with Ms. Brosmer with what she said, because going back to the ESC, one of the things that we noticed last week at FADS is that every superintendent shared that is an issue for them, certification, but also possibly looking at it as an area that would be of, critical shortage, because half of vacancies from every district almost are in the field of ESE. So I see them joining us there. And also with the EOCs, I see districts joining us as well.
And I knew that I had talked to her. I knew that was one of the things that they had talked about with all the superintendents. Because if you go to any district website and look at their vacancies, that's where the problem is. But I really feel like, only because I saw it happen, that when they added all those extra requirements and said your ESE degree no longer is sufficient for you to teach an ESC class, you now have to go get certified. And like middle school, they teach all those subjects, and they had to become certified in all of the subjects in middle school. I mean, that's when we saw an exodus out of middle school, because why am I going to get a degree to teach math, science, all of those things, but nothing changed with their pay and all that. And so, but does anybody else have anything, or they thought of anything else? I took notes, but let's do this, because I realize you may leave here and you may think about something. How about this week, you email to Karen and Dr. Evans, like put both Karen and Dr. Evans on the email and send.
Emmys.
Huh?
It's like the Emmys, they're playing the music. I don't know where that music's coming from, but.
If you could each just take a few minutes and email Dr. Evans and Karen what your thoughts are about what our platform should be, and what we'll ask Karen to do is to take it and kind of rank it, like 5 people want this, 4 want that, and then it can come back out to all of us, and we could provide some feedback, on here's what we want. That way we'll have a one-page document to go up there with us to leave with all of our legislators. Is that good for everyone?
Great idea.
All right. Anything else? Okay, then at this time, it is 8:04 PM and we are adjourned.